Go ahead and call to order the budget workshop for 2023 budget year. Need to get a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Scott seconds, all in favor? Unanimous. So we're in our budget work session. Give you quite a few things that popped up very last minute. This budget, Linda based this budget, you saw it in there on doing a millage rate increase, was bringing us up to 6.5 mils, which quite frankly, I'd like to avoid having to do if at all possible. Something else that came up was that Tanya is asking for a $10,000 a year raise, and that's not in here in this packet. So that's $10,000 we need to come up with if we're going to do that. I'm also not in favor of doing that for various reasons. In fact, one of my proposals in order to hit budget without having to do a millage increase would be to roll her pay back to $4,500 or $45,000 a year. Because that $15,000 that the council gave her 2 years ago was to get GCIC off the ground, because she said she needed more money so she could be here more, and she hasn't gotten GCIC going. So there are other things associated with that too. So that would save $10,000 off the top, off of the $40,000 shortfall. So that brings us to $30,000. Then if we were to make the police chief be water supervisor again, go through the process of being getting certified for that, bringing water back in-house, we could save $13,000 a year. So that means we're about $20,000 over budget by getting those two savings pulled in instead of the $40,000. And then we can reduce, Linda increased our attorney's fees by about 20,000, and that would make up that other 20. So we'd have our 40 be right under budget without having to do that increase. So something to think about, something to consider. I think that raising the millage rate when everybody's having financial difficulties right now as well, I think this would be a bad year to do that. So with that in mind, I'll let Linda kind of start walking y'all through the packet. Y'all can, ask us questions. We can work through and see if we can figure out a way to make this budget work. Keeping in mind that we also got an increase in technology fees. We will need to increase our budget for that in here somehow if we stay with that company by what did we decide, $1,800 or $2,500?
About 1,700.
About 17.
What will that come on?
They're forcing us to go with a new layer of security that we don't currently have. The base rate is $2,500 a month. Right now, we're paying a base rate of $1,300 a month, but that covers some other things like our email accounts and some other backup systems and things like that. Those will be on top of, we'd still have to pay for those on top of the $2,500 base rate that they've.
Yeah, it's like an increase of $20,000 a year.
Yeah. So,
I don't see how
so
we
there's,
can
yeah,
say that.
so there's another 20,000 we've got to come up with. Then if, Tanya's wanting 10,000 additional, that'd be, so we got to come up with 30,000. We're already 40,000 over without raising the millage rate. So I think we're gonna have some hard decisions tonight.
When it comes to the technology, do we have an alternative of someone else we could go with?
We can, I would like to go that. We had one bid that would be $600 a month,
That was a while ago.
but that was a couple of years ago, so I had to get back with them. But at the time, their price wasn't so different. That it was not necessary, because onboarding fees are expensive. So, but now at this price range, changing to that company would be worth the onboarding fees. So I didn't really pursue it super hard because we're coming in fairly close and then we'd have to pay the additional cost of onboarding. But now it seems like it'd be more reasonable, so I can definitely look back into that.
Do we want to put an RFP out and just quote it out? I mean, at this point, are we obligated with 3 quotes?
And we could certainly put it out for bid if we had a concrete thing where everybody was bidding the same thing.
Right,
You know,
apples
if you
for
just throw
apples.
it out there, you're gonna get, all kinds of stuff. But
The problem is what they're wanting us to do is overkill. It's massive overkill for what our little town. The company our IT company is a company set up for corporations with multiple locations. And so this package they're talking about is to help defend and cover that environment. We've got 4 computers and a server. And
Can we just decline to go with that? It's you
They're
either do it,
requiring it.
you either do it or you're going.
And there's a very real possibility that they're also trying to price out their smaller clients. And
they've had a bunch of changeover. The people that we dealt with in the beginning are not even there anymore and have changed names, and it's been a process, but.
Who is this group?
they're called Corsica now. Used to be EDTS.
Where they based out of?
I think their main headquarters are in South Carolina, but they do have offices in Augusta.
Have we talked to any surrounding areas to find out who they're using?
Yeah, Anderson Networks, I think, takes care of Raven County's computers, and we've talked to them. They also are doing Baldwin's computers, and
What about Sky Valley? Who? You know who?
they were doing
Yeah.
it in-house and on as needed, like we used to be doing. So
Hillard? Mountain City?
I can ask. Joe Leach gave us a name, our accountant, he gave us a name of someone that we can. look
Yeah,
into.
I'm just trying, to me, looking at Clayton. I mean, they're quite a bit bigger, but Sky Valley, Mountain City, maybe Dillard would be, I think, more in line.
Yeah.
Size-wise.
I think what made ours so difficult too was having with Eagle and the police, and depending on what service they use, we had to have a server network or whatever, but it made it where, like in Sky Valley, they didn't even have that at the time. They may now, but I mean.
So they've got police, don't they?
Yeah, but they didn't do they didn't write tickets and stuff.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, I mean, they are writing tickets now, but I don't know if they're doing it electronically or.
I know
handwritten.
Mountain City would be.
So I don't know, most places don't use Eagle. I don't think there's another one that they use that's a lot more expensive than.
Yeah.
I don't
Problem with
know.
Eagle was we had to have a physical server. But we're not, and so our citations are written in Eagle, but our court software is now
CJT.
CJT, which is what the county uses, county sheriff's
Reagan
department.
County.
Yeah. And I think they have ticketing software we could get, but it'd be an added module, so it'd change our pricing. But with Eagle, it was nice because we paid once and we were done. That's why we went with Eagle. And they offer their support. Of course, we buy upgrades periodically.
Yeah, we pay for it every year.
We pay for it every year.
Yeah,
But it's not based on
typically you're-
tickets, is it?
No.
Okay, that's what it was. It was that we just paid them a flat fee, whereas with CJT, we pay a proportion of each citation.
No, we had that choice with CJT, but we did the flat $250 off.
I didn't know that.
So we just
Okay.
pay them $250.
Never mind.
Maybe it's maintenance fee or
But the
something.
Eagle, we still pay Eagle. It really didn't go down because the modules
Okay,
are still the same.
so theoretically, we could get rid of the server, because if we changed everything over to CJT, but we want to make sure that's something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Law
Police
enforcement.
Are they cloud-based?
Yeah,
CJT.
CJT is completely cloud-based. The nice thing there is you're not having to protect data like we
Yeah.
are. With the Eagle being physically in this building, we have to protect it.
Yeah, if you can go cloud, you know, just backup recovery and everything like that, I think you'd be much better off if you can get the pricing right.
Yeah, may need to look at that then. May need to see if going CJT completely and going that route. Now, we'll have to maintain some part of Eagle because of archival records. Not sure how we do that.
A lot of the cloud companies, are you required for so many years to go back?
Sure we are. I think we have to archive for something,
Yeah.
some aspect of
But
it.
they told me before that we would not lose access to it. so.
Right. Yeah,
But I don't know that CJT does what the police need it to do.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking they're just court software, but there's more companies other than Eagle too.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's one that's out there, and I don't know how scalable they are, but have you ever heard of OpenGov?
Yeah, I don't think that's police.
I think they have a module for that. I can find out, but I know that's one that's out there that's. But I don't know how pricey they are.
There's a big one that the counties use, and because Tanya found out about it, or got pricing on it when she first came, and it was way out of our league, but.
Yeah, part of the problem is it's a lot of them, and that's why I thought CJT did it too, but some of them, what they want to do is charge you a per citation. You get a portion of that.
Yeah,
A lot of times what you do is you add that into the citation, a percentage that is, you know, technology fee. When we do that,
Yeah, we do.
what we were doing was we added it in and then put it into a technology fee, but it exceeded what we pay out to Eagle and helped us cover buying new computers at future times and so forth. So, yeah, we definitely need to look at that. We got that literally today, that price increase. We've got to let them know by, I think, June 1st.
It goes into effect July 1st.
Oh, goes into effect July 1st. Okay. So
you got 60, 30, 60, about 60 days or so.
roughly to figure out something else, or at least have something ready to go. So, but for budgeting purposes, we need to know kind of a rough idea of how we want to account for that.
I know this is the first step. What takes place next after we go through this work session? So do we have another opportunity to continue to work on the budget, or is our goal tonight to have something to present?
You want me to answer that? You want to answer that?
Okay, so
depends.
it depends. We've actually got by our, whatever it is a charter or just our, I think it's in our charter. We've got until July 31st to approve a budget. Okay. We like to do it by July 1st because before July 1st, so by the June meeting, we'd like to have a final budget in place because then y'all vote on it June, it goes into effect July 1st, which is the beginning of our fiscal year. So we have done it later in July, gotten our final budget finalized, had to call a special meeting. So that's those are the caveats. I know Linda.
So
would
we
like to have
could
it
work
done.
on this in May.
Yeah.
If we're not done today.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if we need, we just have to have a public hearing, but at least a week before we adopt the budget. So if we need 1 or 10 workshops between now and then, that's fine. It's just
10 workshops.
just saying. I'm just saying, however many you want to have. But yeah, so I mean, you can power through and try to get done in one day. You can split it into a couple of days or.
So the ultimate thing is that by July 31st, we have to have it adopted. And that means we need to have a public hearing the week before that. So those are our constraints. Anything we can do before that date is obviously.
And technically, I have to have a week before that because it has to go into the newspaper a week
Okay.
before we have the public hearing, and I have to have the document.
Now, can the public hearing take place at the same time we do a monthly meeting?
Yeah.
It can, all right. So it's not separate. So we could, in theory, even go to our July meeting date if need be and do the public hearing at that time.
Yeah, as long as we can advertise that we need to know that 2 weeks in advance so she can advertise and then
And then you have to have a special call meeting to adopt. If you did your public hearing
Oh, all right.
at the July
After the
meeting,
meeting.
then you'd have to have another meeting to adopt.
Now, that meeting doesn't have to happen with any timeframe of the public hearing necessarily, I don't think,
At least a week after,
but it has to be at least a week after the public hearing. So it
and
can
before
happen.
July 31st.
Yeah, before July 31st. So, there we are. There's the lay of the land. We either need to figure out how to come up with a bunch of money. I asked Linda to look into special printers. We're starting what the federal government does and print our own money. She said that she doesn't think she can find any. So,
Revenues are down this year. Bond revenues are considerably down from what we had projected, because we thought that the radar, ticketing thing would be in place. It hasn't happened yet, so, that remains to be seen.
How far off are we?
So Warren's still gotta work that out with Blue Line on the indemnification agreement. I mean, if he says we can't sign it and DOT says you have to have it, then I don't know where we go.
I know they've poured one of the pillars for one of those units out there.
Yes.
I mean, other than that, I think it's ready to.
Yeah, Tanya told me that, it was, they were in effect there. What does he say? Has he talked with them or?
Did he mention?
He didn't mention, I didn't ask him. Yes, I'm not sure on that.
I know last year we had budgeted some of that money coming in, correct, for fines and forfeitures. So
Yeah,
what did we end up with? Are we on our normal ticketing? Are we lower than we typically are?
So right now, we're at almost 55,000, and we've got 2 more months that'll go in. So last year we were at 86, I don't think we're gonna make 86.
And last year was a lot lower than the year before, right?
Last year, before that was 112, and
So
then
it's
the
all
year
been
before
going
that, it
down.
was more than that.
So it's gone down steadily over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, pre-pandemic, we were seeing 120 to 150,000 in fines and forfeitures. But it's kind of, and as low as 112, we'd see anywhere in that kind of that.
Well, it's down to 55.
But now we're down to 55.
If you look at the price of gasoline, that and the whole thing with COVID, people aren't out traveling and whatever. Going to Cherokee, this is.
Atlanta traffic's back to normal.
Yeah, no kidding.
Sure.
So,
Projections for next year is kind of a little bit difficult to even know where that's gonna go.
But again, from what I can tell, that based on the last 2 years, the main reason that's down is COVID. Is that valid?
I think a lot of it,
yeah, the 2019, 2020 definitely was affected pretty hard by COVID. I actively asked Tanya to not stop cars unless they were, like during that shutdown time, because I didn't want her being exposed or her officers being exposed unless it was a dangerous situation that needed to be addressed. And so there were a couple of months where their citations dropped way off. But they did start picking back up late 2020 and into 2021. A lot of her officers have been writing 80 citations in a year.
What about GSP? Was that down about the same?
I mean, there's still the bulk of it.
Yeah. But did we see a drop with them for those years?
Yeah,
Because of
that
COVID?
detail.
I don't
Yeah, I
know
can get it.
That's a good question.
I'm sure there was, because
I would think it would be the same. Or some,
Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah,
I'll be back with you in a second.
I was curious what y'all were budgeting this year. We have to figure.
I've got 100 in there.
But we're not gonna come close to that this past year.
No, but we budgeted a hundred,
That's strong.
we budgeted 125.
That's still assuming
Mm.
the radar sign. was
We
coming.
thought it would have picked up after COVID. That was the reason for our budgeting last year.
Right.
And the radar sign, combination.
Combination of the two.
But actually, everything's gone down. And
Well-
the radar sign didn't get picked up.
Yeah, you had another COVID thing going on. You had
Yeah,
gas prices going up. And then you didn't get the sign, the whole sign thing. So you had three things hit you.
mhm.
That-
I know that park visitors went up
Yeah. I thought
pretty
it might have gone
dramatically,
up.
but they have not come back to pre-pandemic levels yet.
Okay.
So that's a pretty good indication that we're also not getting the traffic through here. So,
How far off are they? Do you have any idea?
well,
Are they
Just-
close?
no, because pre-pandemic on a July 4th or any special weekend, holiday type weekend, Memorial Day, so that they would pack out overflow parking, their overflow parking, ambi parking, people along the sides of the roads. They might fill their parking lot.
They
Now,
added
and that's
parking
about
too
it.
over there.
And they've added some parking, so they might fill their parking lot now, but they're not hitting their overflow yet, not yet. Even with the kayakers here last weekend and the past 2 weekends, I don't think they hit their overflow. So there's beautiful days in there.
So if we end up having to adjust our budget again this year, let's just say it's down, we got it at 100 right now. That's putting us further and further behind our budget, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I would hope this wouldn't be the case, but you never know that Warren may not be able to work out with them as far as the.
There is that possibility.
Now, this is a budget, we know that, but we have to have a balanced budget, just in case y'all didn't know, we can't have it. It's gotta be balanced.
It has to be
right?
balanced, state mandate.
Statement. Just to let you know.
Not a bad mandate.
In other words, we've got, no matter what we come up with, it has to be balanced, and it's gonna change over the year, don't get me wrong.
Oh, and we can amend it later
Yeah, you
if,
can amend it.
and we do have reserves we can pull from. But
The concept here is just to get a balanced budget to submit to the state.
but those
And you
reserves are not
can-
unlimited.
Yeah, you can use reserves to balance your budget. Not ideally, but you can.
But we don't want to do that every year, because remember, we also got to, next year, we're gonna possibly, depending on the radio situation, we may have to come up with another 15,000 a year. So, that's. Right, all that now, so I know how much we're looking at.
What kind of revenue, or if any, will we see benefits from Tallulah Adventures?
Very minimal, maybe some wine.
Some
beer and wine.
excise tax.
Yeah, excise
Yeah,
tax,
you-
property tax, we get a little bit. But
Yeah, no
We're-
sales tax.
If the first guy had been able to have gone through.
Yeah, we would've
would've saw a lot.
we would have gotten a lot, because if it had turned it into a boutique hotel, we would have gotten room tax. So,
But it is what it is.
unfortunately. Yeah, we don't see sales tax revenue really at all. The only way we see sales tax revenue is through SPOS. And, yeah, that's
We'll see it this year.
Yeah. a little bit. So I think Habersham's about with T-Splosh. Raymond just did one last year, went into effect this year. So, but that's all we get out of that's gonna be roads. We don't use it for roads and sidewalks. But that can't help us with our budget at all. So. What would really be nice is if that GCIC stuff is going, if frogs have wings.
What
Because
is required to do the GCIC? I mean,
not 100% sure. I know Tanya she mentioned that she would need a separate computer. And I asked her to get me those specs a couple of times and she never got back with me. what it is, it's doing running background checks for corporations that are hiring. And so you have to be certified, whoever's doing it has to be certified. Now, Tanya would be certified for now. You'd have to run it long enough to be able to hire on, be able to generate enough revenue to hire a permanent person for that position. Who would have to get background check clearances and certifications to be able to do it. But really all you need is a computer and the contacts for them to call you and say, hey, do a background check on this person. And
Does that also include drug testing too? It wouldn't go in that far, was it?
I don't think so. I think it was just looking for past criminal history, but it was I think it would include fingerprint checking. That's the thing that really takes, I think is what forces it to be more, you have to be more secure. You have to be behind locked doors and doing other things because you're doing a background check based on fingerprints, I think.
And do we have, now, I had to go through that when I applied for Tallulah Falls School, and it was a digital setup, so as far as fingerprinting goes, so I guess it's something similar to that, or?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
I think usually what it'll be is the company or the corporation will send us the information that they've already collected. Our guys do the background check, send back to them just basically a report saying some very vague information about them. So they can't disclose too much, and then they pay for that. And I think Baldwin, I'm not 100% sure on the numbers. Baldwin, I think, had made somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 in 1 month doing that. Now you have to pay your employees.
Yeah.
So you got to keep in mind, they've got several people doing that in that locked room. So, but there is a potential for revenue through that program.
Now, with the locked room, where would she do it?
That's why she'd set her office up where it is now and had an isolated room, so she could put another desk in there. And then what we were talking about needing to get access to the shower, we'd have to put a second wall in with a locked door in between. So that would all, again, block access to that room. For two reasons, GCIC and for evidence. Need to keep all that behind a locked door that she has the key to. So, I don't want to be accused of tampering with evidence, so I don't want to have access to an evidence room at all. So,
We talked about using the house that we here. It worked out too, right?
The rock.
yeah, we've talked about doing that, except it would have to be public access. And I don't know if we could maintain public access to that building and her do GCIC there also. I think it would be a problem. I know that was a concern she expressed at one time.
Okay.
But again, we're 2 years in and no movement that I'm aware of on GCIC.
You know why?
Okay, I can't go back to 2019 because we didn't start it until July of 2019. So for July of 19 to June of 20, Georgia State Patrol brought in $41,000. Tallulah Falls brought in $6,569.
So
Now, this
both-
was just, that's not completely true. That's just speeding, because this is the report that it pulls GSP for me.
But it kind of gives you a percentage. of-
But it gives you an idea. That's most of what
We're not-
GSP is writing anyway. And then on the next year, so their GSPs went from 41,000 to 15,900.
That tells you.
And
What you were saying.
ours went from 6,500 to 5,200, so.
Ours didn't go down that much and GSP did.
Yeah.
How does it work? Okay, they have a chase or whatever they, find somebody or whatever.
Mhm.
When the numbers that you're looking at there, is that what the court basically assessed, here's the fine, or is that truly the payments that we made?
So those were payments that were made.
Okay,
And like I said, that was just specifically on speeding, but it breaks it down, but that's like a 20-page report. I can do it by officer, but that's a much
Yeah.
longer.
And that's what I've got.
But- Okay, because I'm sure that there's cases where somebody gets locked up and they never paid the fine and they, yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's a whole process for that, and we end up suspending their license, assuming they have a license, and you know, sometimes they get paid, sometimes they don't, that kind of thing, but yeah, there's not a whole lot that go completely unpaid. You know, some people end up on probation, making payments, and sometimes they make it all the way through probation, and then sometimes they, you know, fizzle out and we don't get to collect on them, but the majority. But yeah, and then if it's, you know, if something's big, if it's like a felony, then it skips our court anyway, it goes straight to Superior Court. We don't do felonies here, so it has to be in the Superior.
Right. So Linda, you and Mike both went through and kind of did a budget or did a balance. Or did you-
Linda did most of it. I just looked through it Monday and caught a couple of things.
So again, the issues you brought up, Linda, do you see any others outside of maybe the fines and forfeitures being lower than the 100,000 that you anticipate? Is there
One thing we
anything
just
else?
talked about a little bit ago was the incentives that Paul had talked about for the fire department are not in there.
Okay.
So we might need to build something into that. They used to do $4,000
Yeah,
for payments to the fire department, and that kind of went away when they switched chiefs. So, you know, I don't know if we want to go with a 4 or some variation, you know, but he's not here, but I know he mentioned that, and I did not build that into it, didn't even think about it until we were talking about it today.
So it'd bring us a little further on the budget, basically. Everything we talked about. there's nothing-
course, yeah,
nothing's
nothing to go
gonna- nothing's
down.
gonna Help us.
Yeah.
I guess is what I was trying to see if there's, if you had anything in there. It
I'm
might be a
always
little low.
hopeful, yeah, I'm always
Okay.
hopeful.
So you don't have anything there that's a little low, pretty much.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh, it's so tight. I mean, there's a few things like for a couple of years, I had in there the Firewise grant. but
Yeah.
Nobody's applying for it, so I just took it out this year. So I mean, that decreased us $1,500. I mean, trying to be realistic.
Yeah, I understand.
So, and I know,
And I can't see any other revenues. The revenues were got a little bit on taxes, that's minor.
yeah, on the millage rate, if you don't know the history, we were at 6 mills for
over 20 years.
over 20 years. And then we started,
And you might want to explain that. I understand you explained to us, to Tom and Scott, how,
I was here for the last one.
oh, you were, my bad.
Scott
Scott,
wasn't.
how that works as far as,
yeah, so when the tax assessor reassesses property values, you know, every year, or they don't do everybody's, but there'll be some reassessments during the year, most of the time. And when there is, that affects our tax digest, and when we have to figure a rollback rate, we have to take those reassessments out. So it more or less rolls back our rate to a point that our revenue would be at a even level of what it was prior year. So where it was 6 mills for so long, I don't think anybody was doing a rollback rate. So when I came to work here, we started doing it. But, so then it has gone down repeatedly a little bit, just, you know, a fraction of a mill for the last.
but if you don't roll it back, you've got to have a public hearing because you're raising taxes.
You have to have 3 public hearings.
Right, three. So
So
in
you have to advertise.
other words, we leave it at the current rate now, let's just say it goes down 2 points or whatever, it goes down 0.2, we would and we wanted to keep it where we currently have it, we would have to have public hearings because you're technically raising people's taxes.
And that would be at a later date, because we don't even have the digest yet, but yeah, you'd be required to have 3 public hearings, one evening, one after 7 or after, and then 2 more. One could be the same day, just earlier, anyway. But it requires 3, and it requires a notice saying that you're raising the tax rate. Even if your millage rate, this is what's weird. So say your rollback rate is 5.663 and you're at 6 and you want to leave it at 6.
Yeah.
Still a tax increase.
Yeah.
Because you didn't roll it back.
Right.
So what, if we left it where it was, given we have to have 3 meetings,
So
how would that put us as far as balance?
So we can do a combination of things. I mean, we're at 5.663 mils now. I have no idea what the digest is gonna come in, that's come in yet, so I don't know what that's.
When does it usually come in?
It's gonna be
August.
late July, early August.
After the budget?
Mhm. Right. Yeah.
So we pretty much have to say, this is how much tax revenue we need, and then you have to adjust your millage rate to what you said.
Ours is 5.6, based on our budget last year, it's 5.663.
Mhm.
Okay, what did the actual rate come in at?
No, I mean, that's what,
That's what it came in at, okay.
Yeah.
We just agreed to roll back to whatever it was, that's what we did.
yeah, I
It
mean,
would
what,
be, or in August, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
yeah, we budgeted basically the same kind of revenue as we did the year before, and then it worked out because,
So in August, you just adjusted the rate period based on our budget. In other words, you just roll it back if it rolls back in August.
We'll roll it back and then y'all vote on
Make
it.
it-
well, y'all have to go through the whole process.
Oh, we did,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, y'all voted on it.
We did vote on it. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah,
So for the budget, we just gotta figure it, and then when whatever happens in August, happens in August.
right. So, I mean, I know nobody ever wants it to go up, and I understand that, but you gotta take it from somewhere, so you either gotta reduce expenses or
Do you have
raise
any
the
idea,
taxes.
do you have any idea if it may go up in August? Just curious.
Chances are, yeah. If they assess any property in town. it's gonna
Property's
go up.
assessed right now, it's high.
Yeah.
I mean,
Super high.
chances are, if we don't roll it back, I mean, if we roll it back more, I mean, you know,
We don't
we're
have to.
probably gonna end up with a tax increase regardless, is what I guess I'm trying
Yeah, in
to
August,
say, even if we
August,
have
I
it.
think the
the same.
millage rate's gonna go up, based on
Well, the-
numbers right now, that would be.
I mean, your new houses won't count against you. So, you know, we've got, I think, maybe one that wasn't on the last one that should hit this time, so that'll have some.
I guess my question is, if we said, hey, let's budget it at 6. And then in August, it comes in at 6.1. Or something higher, not lower. If you go up, that's when you'd have your hearings? In other words, if it came in lower, you have it rolled back, you actually raise it? Or
So
not? Or you'd
it's
have
kind
to-
of 2 different processes. So right now, we're gonna say we need X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
Now, we can say this is based on a 6%
Yeah.
mill, whatever. But when the digest comes in and we have to adopt the millage rate, that's a whole separate process.
I got you. So it might mess our budget up if we stick with whatever they have, if it rolls back or stays the same.
So, yeah, if we say we need, you know,
6.0, so what?
$200,000 in tax revenue, and then we end up adopting a millage rate that only brings in $160,000 in
Yeah,
revenue. then
even though we
we
balance
just-
the budget right now, it
Yeah.
doesn't do us any good if we
Right.
don't vote the same on all this.
Right.
As your budget.
That's where we'd amend our budget and use surplus funds or contingency funds to make up the difference.
But it
Yeah,
doesn't,
we
doesn't
have
help you balance right now. So you got this high, you know, your projected revenue numbers are based on 6.5 in this budget.
Yeah, so the 13th, the 133.
Yeah.
Based on last year's digest, it would be 6.5.
We would have to do a millage increase to 6.5 to come up with $133,500.
So if we don't do that, we're again,
As a,
messing the budget again.
Yeah.
Negative.
because if we leave our millage rate where it is, we'll
We'll have to change that.
We'll have to change the
We'll be
millage rate
negative,
if we
right?
don't want to, yeah, if we don't want to, if we want to maintain the $85,000 that we got. How did we go from 85 to 116? I guess we had some. We budgeted 85. Anyway. Oh, that's utility. I'm looking at the wrong
Yeah.
numbers, guys. I'm
You-
sorry.
You gotta
Wondering.
add them all
Yeah, I
together.
need to look at this down here, the 245
245, 181.
and 181. No, that's what, okay. I looked at the wrong spot. So at 181, 630 is what we keep rolling our millage rate back to maintain. So that we don't have to advertise for a tax increase.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've been talking to some of our local representatives about is like, I want, and several other cities want to carve out, if you've got a population of under a certain amount, you should be able to leave your millage rate the way it is and not have to advertise for a tax increase. The reason that went into effect was there were cities that had their own tax assessors. They would leave their millage rate alone, but have their tax assessors reassess properties and keep jacking that assessment up. And that's how they were doing.
Yeah.
So the state said, okay, enough of that.
Yeah, so state control it instead of us powers.
Yeah. Well, we don't have our own assessor. We use the county, so we don't have any control over our assessors, so we can't be playing that game. And so that would essentially just be a cost of living increase for us every year that it was reassessed. And we can get bit by a reassessment too, by it dropping.
Not right now, you could.
No, not right now, but back in like 2008, when property values crashed, that would have been a payroll or a revenue cut for the town. So I'm asking, I'm hoping they'll do something, make a carve out. They do that all the time. If you have less than 5,000 residents, you don't have to do certain things a certain way. You get a pass, but,
And our utility, there was a reassessment on public utilities come in after the digest comes in. We're always waiting on those till later, or like after we bill, before we get the final values on Georgia Power stuff or any of the utility stuff. So there was one of Georgia Power's that went way up this year, so that's why it's so much higher than what we had budgeted.
And in everybody's time, we need to assess if there's any utilities we're missing on our right of way. That's pretty much got everything covered. We don't know really. do we?
So that-
The utilities on the right of way that pay us the money.
The franchise.
Franchise fees. We still I haven't had time, I know, to assess all our right of ways and make sure we're getting all those franchise fees, right?
yeah.
I mean, I know we get, I
We
mean, I
do
know
get
we
some,
get gas, electric, or,
And phone,
Should
right?
get phone for at least two, if not three different companies. Windstream, True Vista has wire lines coming through town.
we don't need anything from True and
I
stuff.
don't need many looking at. I know GMA has a program, but I think we have to pay for it, where they'll go out and
They'll do a
they'll
survey.
do a survey
Yeah,
and
that's
pull
what
all
we
that
need,
stuff
yeah.
in. So we can look into.
Then
what
again,
that
we may
costs.
be claiming more right away than we.
We might be.
It might go
We
back.
might be.
So we may have that issue too. So
Yeah.
if we do an internal, it needs to be internal and then see where we're at.
We can definitely look at it.
We've talked about it before. I just haven't never had a chance to do it.
So,
All the utilities on our right of way that pay us.
Any other questions on revenues?
maybe we should
There is
start
a
on
inter-
page.
There is an interfund transfer out to water that's in here in the amount of $10,000.
Happens every year.
So, yeah, we didn't budget one for this year, but it's probably, they're still gonna probably be short and it's gonna come
Maybe
from
that
their own
grant,
reserves.
maybe that grant will help us.
Yeah. So maybe, the year before that, we did 12.
We
It's
use
usually
it.
been around 12 for the last few years since we did the rate restructure. It's been better. It was like $50,000.
We've been using it too.
So there may be some things to talk about on water. So if you wanna-
There is.
We wait and do that then, but that, there is 10,000 of our deficit that is because of water, 10,000 of it is because of that.
And water still becoming short, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and then water's still short, $9,200.
We're anticipating that grant, but we can't really do that.
And that's not for operations, that's just gonna be for
Yeah, that's-
capital, so.
Strictly be capital improvements.
So then if you move on down to your legislative, that's the council budget. It's pretty slim. It's basically just your salaries and insurance. Some training, assuming anybody wants to go to training. If nobody thinks they'll go to training next year, I mean, you can move.
We can't afford training next year.
We had enough, didn't
I mean, that's
Our point-
$2,100. I mean, we can take it out if we really don't think we're gonna use it.
GMA training. Anybody gonna use it? I can do it.
I've got mine under
Yeah,
executive.
he's
Oh.
separate.
Yeah, I'm separate.
we? We'll go back to GMA training, Scott.
Yeah, I'd go to water training.
There we
They
go.
have one.
Mhm.
I wouldn't mind that.
You remember how much that was?
I remember the email.
Yeah, I looked at it.
I don't remember the figure. I mean, I looked at it, but
Because we could leave that in. to go
Or leave
with
that
that.
in then. Okay.
Georgia Rural Water does some conferences.
Can we
too.
give the town our salary? I would. I don't like it.
Give it to Tilly.
Pull a Trump.
He takes donations.
I was surprised we didn't have one.
And you didn't realize it.
Well, we rolled that back in early 2020.
Yeah.
So it was more?
It was more. We rolled it back.
Yeah.
It wasn't done quite right.
And I was shocked when that first check was on there.
That because
I mean, here a little bit helps.
so the executive budget would be the mayor.
Yeah.
he already put out his.
Do what?
So there wasn't any training in.
Yeah, I think I pulled my training out last year.
Hmm.
So I just made a long pocket. For the second one, to do something.
And there's really not much wiggle room on those two. Admin is kind of the catch-all. So everything that's not mayor, council, court, police, or fire, names falls in admin. So it picks up
And that's
all
what,
the legal fees, all
and
the.
the IT services too.
Yeah.
And that's when we talked about, what'd you put in the budget for IT that you were talking about earlier?
We haven't added it in.
Okay, so you kept it the same.
Yeah, right now
Yeah, right now it's the same.
All right, so we
So
would
that's
have to make,
another $20,000 if we stay with it. That we'd have to,
so we need to switch services?
I don't see any way around it.
Yeah, I think they've forced our hand.
So we maintain the IT budget as it is under administration and make the cut on the, make the change.
Maybe we'll pick up some,
Right, but we're just guessing on what that change is gonna be
Yeah.
based on the older quote, right?
Yeah, that'd be an updated quote.
If you bump that quote 20%. What is it looking like? Is it close to what numbers you had?
Yeah, we're still within and probably better.
I was just
Yeah.
thinking 10% 2 years, each year. They probably have an increase, I would imagine. The quote you got from 2020, right?
Yeah,
Okay, what was it?
I mean, that would still.
the high
cover-
side was 800 a month, so.
So what do you have in the budget? Sorry.
So it's a little split out.
You split it among some other
Yeah.
items? Okay, I understand. Did
it's
you
not
have
all
something
in
you
there.
went by roughly? Or what are we probably went by what we're currently paying, right? What are we currently paying?
So, I mean, it's split out all the way to how many, you know,
Or
your
just the
email
bill from
address
them?
and everything. So
No, just the bill they send us each.
it's about 1,300, a little
Okay,
over
A
13.
little over 13 based on,
and that's what you've got in the budget.
Mhm.
Okay, not their increase that's.
No.
Okay, but we think we might can get some services for
Well,
their old quote was 600. I'm sure it's gone up.
Yeah.
So it's gonna go up to at least 900 to 1,000 a month, I'd say. So you've probably got it in the ballpark now, big savings there for us to do.
Probably not, because according to Mike, we have to, if that was
Because
$600
you
or
got the
$800,
fees, got
but
the
then we have to
fees,
add
yeah,
on
fees.
Microsoft and the
you'll get some
Okay.
backup
All right.
system, so we're probably
close to what we're
close to
already
what
paying.
we're at now.
Okay. So on that. So we definitely need to make that change to maintain the budget the way it is now.
Okay.
Okay, I got you. I just make sure we're on the same page on that.
Because I really have to raise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
where
I
to find
got you.
20,000. Plus another
I don't know. where to go.
15 per.
I'm still worried about radios.
And all these are just your catch-all monthly billing. for- Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, all the gas, electricity.
Municipal court.
Court has a fraction of my salary, and then the judge, postage. I have to do certification every year for them, which
If
the
you're
last
not-
few years has been a lot, which has been.
Right, if you're not anticipating based on this, not any major increases. What I can see, it's pretty much,
No, so.
and we've been doing just about on budget each year.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, for 2020, we were at $19,052 and, you know, we're still at 20,000 in the budget, so it's pretty level. Police, Tanya didn't really change anything on her budget.
how did we do on the part-time? Did we go over our budget last year?
We did go over
We had to amend our budget.
last year and
And we'll
I
go
would
over-
probably go over again this year.
We're already currently over them. No.
No, we're at 13.
We're 13,504.
504, we budgeted for 15.
So
We've still got
two more
left.
months. So we should be all right. Pretty close.
Close.
All right, Linda.
I figured it not long ago, and it was on
On target.
target.
Okay. Did we increase that budget last year?
It was, no, we did
No,
not, the year
Part-time, we
before.
did. The year before we did. I remember increasing it at one moment. So it's all we're holding in there. Okay.
The part-time, when we're doing that, is this something we're doing every month? What?
Part-timers, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, she,
what's it to cover?
it's to cover weekends
Yes,
or if
every
she
weekend.
needs to be away, like a training or,
Okay,
I think mostly training. If she knows she's gonna be away, she'll have a part-timer come in.
my question is, what I'm wondering is just kind of thought, are we seeing,
Are we seeing revenue off tickets?
that's where I was going.
Yeah.
In other words, are they making their money?
Yeah, in fact, most of our sites do not.
Not on their own.
See, my opinion is based upon what you told us, is that, there's probably not revenue generating there. It's more the Georgia State Patrol.
It's less than Georgia Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
less, it's less.
significantly less.
Yeah, the Georgia State Patrol is writing most of the tickets, so do we really need the weekend? I guess is kind of what I'm questioning. If the Georgia State Patrol's here anyway.
I guess the question is if they're here,
Yeah, I mean, they're not
because they
always
roll,
there.
yeah, they roll in and out depending on what their,
Yeah,
what the need is around. So I know during
Sometimes,
during the riots, they were down, all of them down in Atlanta. No citations are being written up here for a month or so. month or more.
what about the two sheriff's departments?
so I
They're
see
in here today.
Raven quite often on my way home,
And Haversham on.
but they do, if they write, it does not
It does
come
not
to
come
us.
to us.
But if they know that the weekend part-time help's not here on the weekends, you'll probably see more patrols up in this area, right? Or you could request one from the
Yeah.
state,
Now, I got a question.
based on the 600,000.
Why are we
Yeah, it just
not-
doesn't help on revenue.
If either county is writing here, you're saying we don't see any of the revenue, it goes to the county?
The only ones we see will be DNR, GSP, and our officers.
Right.
And right now, the bulk of, I think, I'd have to go check, I think the bulk of our citations are coming from our part-timers.
The part-time guys on the weekends, they're here just to slow traffic down, or are they helping with other safety things?
Well, they help with other things, like the overturned, the 3 vehicle accident we had.
Yeah.
Part-time was here that day, and he was out there helping us take care of traffic.
That was during the week.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not always
It's,
on the weekend.
sometimes it's a, yeah, it's like she,
Yeah,
like I
but I
said,
mean,
she's
during
got
the week.
training or she needs off for some reason.
I got you, but I'm trying to figure, most of our part-time is during the weekends, is that correct? Most of it is.
I'd say most, but I mean, there may be a day during the week that.
But most of it is, I see where he's going, and I agree.
But so they're not, but their revenue, I'm not asking them to go out there and become a speed trap. I'm just saying the revenue that they're not bringing in other words, they're not covering the cost, which is understandable. Are they, is their benefit of the other services worth it? Okay. It is.
One of, and Tanya can say this, but one of her part-timers writes probably the bulk of all of our tickets from the police, her and Dakota, right?
Yeah, I'm now getting to where I can finally write, because it's took me years to get the office situated, and straightened up where I need to. Plus still having to do all my chief stuff. I can't sit out and do traffic all the time. So everybody thinks that's all I have to do, but it's not. There's a whole lot that comes with it, a whole lot of hours that you don't see me that I might do in other things, try to keep the department going. So therefore, I'm one person. And like, I'm sorry I wasn't here earlier, but I did have a previous engagement, but I canceled most of it and left, but a lot more tickets weren't wrote this year because of COVID again. Georgia State Patrol cut their guys and told them, don't get out. We don't want you sick or dying. I didn't want to die. I didn't send my guys out. So yeah, everything did drop. Again, we're a small department and they've lost a lot of people at Georgia State Patrol. Even trying to get part-time here is impossible. I have maybe one that'll show up. If not, it's me. My days I'm here, still taking care of stuff in the city, trying to do things, take care of the people, trying to write tickets, trying to bring revenue in. Yeah, it has dropped, but in the last month, we have wrote a ton of tickets, and I don't think it's showed on those numbers, because I think that's what you told me about a month ago, it was around 55, and I know we wrote a ton since then.
Yeah, but
It's not-
our May court, which will be June revenue, will be a good month.
Yeah, we
This
wrote
month,
a
we
lot.
don't have hardly anything, but May's court will be good.
Yeah, I guess my question is, do we need the guys here on the weekend?
Well, I've tried to cut some of it out, but Mike's the one that told me he wants somebody here every day. So I've tried to cut a little bit out, but he wants coverage, even though I've got the counties to.
I
agree to
understand
come.
your coverage during the week when you're out, you got training, or you got stuff to do. I'm trying to figure out if the weekends are always that necessary. I know that's where the 600,000 people come up, but I mean, I didn't know if that could be supported by the state patrol. I'm just asking.
They do help because it's easy to write tickets when traffic's slow.
Yeah.
But when it's heavy, it's literally impossible.
Yeah,
To
well, I
get
know,
out and do
I'm not
anything.
worried about that
Um,
part, I'm just wondering.
There's some days that, no, we really could do without them.
Well, the part-time's coming in on budget, it's not like it's way out of
Yeah,
whack.
yeah, it's,
We've already
last year
talked
was
about that,
It's
but
bad, but there's a lot that went on. We'll be right on it this year with them.
Yeah, I think what we were questioning was, you know, would it be feasible whatsoever to maybe cut some of that?
And I've even talked to the counties, because like, even with Habersham, they have a heat unit. And I've reached out to them saying, you know, can I have your heat units for a little while to come up, because I think all that's through the state, they have those units, so I thought maybe they can come
Can you
and,
explain that, what
this is traffic units where they go out and work traffic, keep everybody slowed down.
but
That's
now
part of
from
the
what,
governor's highway safety, isn't that correct?
now, from what Linda was just saying, that, let me make sure I understand. If Habersham County and Roden County are writing tickets, so there's
It
no
does, it
revenue.
goes to the county. So I had reached out to see if I could use them, since they are separate units, because they'll go from each department and do things and generate revenue for them. If I could have them come up and help me some, well, I was turned down. To know if they're gonna write tickets, it's gonna go to the county, so. Like today, I tried to write tickets. I got 2 because I had Habersham sitting on that end of the line and Raven sitting at that end of the line. And it's pretty much impossible when you get shut down on things like that.
Well, and we have no control over,
No. Whatsoever.
GSP doesn't
Because-
talk to the counties when they're patrolling the area.
They have spent most of their times working wrecks. They even talking to some of them, they said, we've not got to come up like we want to, because we're always working wrecks, because the counties won't work any of theirs. Even a simple deer wreck, they call GSP for.
Well, just let you know, we're looking at everything, down to the IT and down to training and everything else, just trying to find some cuts to balance.
Well,
That's why we're discussing it.
yeah, and the GCIC stuff, were the money that y'all gave me before, it wasn't just solely based on me starting GCIC. And I went to Mike about this and told him I can't do anything till our IT company changes. So my hands are tied until something happens, because it took me, one time, it took me a month to get my computer fixed from the current IT people, because they couldn't figure out what was wrong.
I told you we'd keep that separate, that computer separate from the IT company, that I'd maintain it and take care of it until we did get a new IT company.
But that's where GCIC, because the lady that's over GCIC that comes and does my audits, she's not fond of running histories, but she said she'll do whatever. And I told her, you know, they were wanting to put a door in so everybody could access the shower. She said, once you get a secure place, then we'll talk and I'll help you all I can. But hands are kind of tied with that too. I mean, like even my computer in my office is so outdated, I can't even use it. I just use my laptop. So I've, you know, just kind of left it there. Can't just like jump in and do it. There's a lot of hoops to go through, because all these companies now, they're cutting each other so bad. Like you only really have Baldwin that does it and another place or two, but they're cutting each other to where their profits are becoming nothing, because they'll cut them a penny here or a penny there. And, you know, it's frowned upon through GCIC even doing it, but it is a way to bring in, and, you know, bring your revenue in. It's just getting it set up and doing it properly and having a secure place to do it.
Have we budgeted for the improvements needed to build that wall, add a door? Is that?
It's in our, we'll get to that in our capital.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we've talked about it, we just.
It's in this year's budget.
I mean, it's not the fact that I haven't tried to do stuff. It's hard to come in from a department and redo everything and get it going the way it should, get everything up to date and stuff. Like I say, the ticket revenue guy went down because of COVID, but that's also because you can't find anybody to work part-time too, and plus GSP's cut, because they don't have as many people as they used to. So it's hard to get it, but you know, everybody's trying to get back to where they were.
So if we're at 55 now, and maybe we may make it to like, I guess about 70, maybe 70. something.
I see it being more than that at the rate we're going right now.
And what would you project for next year? What do you think?
I mean, if we have no
COVID.
COVID, I don't have a problem at all having the numbers back the way they were. If, you know, If the governor don't shut us down and say, hey, don't go out and do a lot because so many people are getting sick, just kind of,
I got a question. One of the things I was thinking of a little bit ago, and I may be wrong, but those numbers, when we were looking at over 100 on that, was that when we had in effect 2 people on the force as well and not just one?
No, that was
Yeah,
2020.
2020 was 112.
and that's when we had no sickness or anything like that going on really.
Yeah, that would have been the year ending.
2019, 2020.
Yeah.
Would have been right at the beginning of COVID,
Yeah, the first few months.
the first few months.
Yeah.
So it probably would have been a little bit higher than that,
I think it had been like 120,
120.
125 the year before that.
So.
So on the police budget, you pretty much, looks like nothing drastic went up as far as all the miscellaneous items. Right?
Yeah, she.
But the only question I had, and it's only because it's so obvious, is that there was a very little increase allowed for fuel, and yet we know how much fuel's gone up. And I mean, last year we had budgeted 59.15, and now we're at 6,000. That doesn't really show. I don't know if that would be enough to cover.
Well, we try to conserve, even like with COVID, I'll park out there just to be seen.
Yeah.
Do my paperwork while I'm sitting out there, try to do it all at one time, but keep the price of it down, the cost of it down.
Just know how much it's affected our family.
It's bad.
Yeah, I don't know I know we get our fuel from the county, but I don't know if they get a special rate. I know we don't pay tax, but I don't know if
I
they get a
think they get a
special.
little better rate
better
than
rate.
normal.
Okay,
So it goes a little further.
Yeah, so I don't have to, like, if I go somewhere, I might have to stop at a gas station, like if I go to a conference, but
Sure.
we get it all through the county that way. It's
Which county? Habersham, Raven?
so
You get it from both? So where do you have to go to get gas? Into Clayton or?
Clayton, where the DOT
C2.
and the shop is
Right.
there, and then the county shop at Habersham.
Okay.
Which is on your. way.
Because that's on my way to work every day, so. I
The
pass
county
by.
shop is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they both, I mean, price wise, Raven County and Habersham both kind of the same?
I mean, we'll get a lot more.
Okay, so on the police budget, the only thing that's not shown on the budget is the 10,000 Donnie's requesting.
I just asked for some just because it's hard. I mean, the price of everything's going up. I have a family, so. But I sure can't take a cut.
Do we usually do a cost of living increase for employees?
We haven't, I mean, we've
Inflation.
been at the same
It's not
rate
staying.
for 2 years. I think that's-
Also, I mean, I'm sorry I was dropped in late, but as far as the camera system and the school zones, I mean, there's times that we don't know what the issue is with the form that's got to be signed, because we'll end up being the only one that hasn't signed it. But that, to me, is going to be great, because that will allow me to take that money and add another full-time that's not going to come out of your budget. It'll come out of that. Because you'd be surprised at what revenue that'll bring in. That'll help get me another person.
Revenue
Take a strain
without
off
the
this.
expense of having them in.
Yes.
But do
So
we
are
put,
you saying we shouldn't include any of that revenue in our bonds and forfeiture?
It has to
revenues?
be, well, it has to be used for public
It has to be
safety.
used for public
Well, I mean,
safety.
you've got a whole public
Yeah.
safety department in your budget.
yeah, so it can be used
So it can't,
against
yeah.
salaries too.
You can use, they told me you can use that for
Yeah, I don't
salaries.
think there's any restriction. It just has to be public safety.
But
So what I'm saying is we've budgeted 100,000, but part of that was with the
Yeah, that,
the radar signs.
you're anticipating this budget right now at 100,000, that's with typical fines of orders and the signs. So you're thinking the signs are gonna increase that? We thought that last year and it's backfired on us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was COVID.
I know it wasn't anyone's fault, I'm just saying it backfired on us because we anticipated we would have it. I'm not blaming anyone, I'm just saying it just did.
Well, and the issue now isn't that we don't want to sign it, it's whether we can legally use funds. This is what Warren was saying was, it's illegal for us to use taxpayer dollars to indemnify DOT. So if something were, and I can't imagine what it would be, but if someone went to sue DOT, of course, we would have to step in if we signed that indemnification, but that would be illegal according to Warren. Now, other municipalities, other counties have their own lawyers that advise differently. I know that there was that one of the issues in those camera deals was that at first, only schools could request them. And yet, many times it's been the municipality requesting. So they tried to change that law recently. I think it passed last year that allowed municipalities to make that application. So, so that being the case, it's not that I can't say whether these other cities or counties followed all the rules or followed all the guidelines to get what they've got. We're gonna follow what our attorney's saying, and right now he's trying to straighten it out. Hopefully he can.
Yeah, but if I'm not mistaken, and then maybe there wasn't something in writing, but you spoke with Mr. P
Yes, he wants
and
it.
he wanted it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so that would cover us on that.
Right.
I don't think we'd have a problem on that.
It's the suing the DOT if someone were to go that route.
Yeah, if either the sign fell over and hit a car while they were driving,
Yeah.
or someone ran off the road and hit the thing.
Or
I
hit
don't
the
know.
sign, yeah, the DOT gets sued,
Yeah,
that's what they're saying.
Or they
We
go after-
signed this, so we gotta cover their cost.
or if they go after DOT for getting the citation, and DOT says, nope, you gotta go to them.
Well, I'm curious, based on the issues we've had recently with our insurance coverage. Would insurance, how would it handle this? How would it handle this?
probably not well.
Well, that's what I'm afraid of.
Well, that's- And that's why I think Warren wants Blue Line to sign the indemnification. I think that's what he's saying needs to happen, is Blue Line needs to be the one that indemnifies us and DOT.
Warren's just trying to keep us out of the situation, which is fine, but it
Yeah.
doesn't help us with how to anticipate the budget.
Right.
Right.
Well, and I also wonder if we need to set up a separate cost center under fines and forfeitures just generated from those cameras. We can track revenue from that.
Probably, I would think we would have to, if it's gonna be, if it has to be specified.
I would think that'd be,
Too, so you're coming in,
yeah,
so.
that wouldn't be difficult, but we probably need to list it separately so we can track how that's doing.
Can we find out, because what Craig's saying is true, we're kind of in between a rock and a hard place. You know, you'd like to be able to count on this, but then at the same time,
It could balance the budget just like that,
yeah, I mean,
and we wouldn't be sitting here all
Is-
night. That's what I'm
exactly.
trying to get at.
well, yeah, and he's exactly right. You know, I mean, I would like to hear from Warren to either say, yeah, I think I got this worked out, give me another 2 weeks, or no, we got a real problem here. And I
Yeah,
don't.
that's- you're right. And is it gonna be 6 months again, or a year?
Exactly.
And
Can
we're
we,
sitting here with
can
bad
we
budget.
physically count on that?
Yeah.
I mean, and I love the sound of being able to add a second officer.
There's a lot of
So
litigation.
let him call Warren and see if he's got a bill for it.
There's a lot of people personally suing over there's a lot of litigation over camera.
Hey, I got you on speakerphone with the council.
Insurance.
They would like an update on the Blue Line
That worries me.
indemnification. He hasn't made contact yet.
I mean, is it,
Warren, do you anticipate a resolution like within a month or 2 months, or do you think this thing could not happen? Because we're just trying to budget. That's what we're trying to do.
Right. No, I mean, I would anticipate no more than 60 days.
You
But I
think?
think you will know in 60 days whether it's gonna happen or not.
okay, the next question Well, actually, I got two questions.
Wait a minute,
based-
is it gonna happen or not? Still don't answer it. It's hard
Yeah,
to-
that's where I was going.
Oh.
If he anticipates that he's gonna have a positive resolution
There you go.
or not. That's one. And then the other one is, do we need to do something insurance wise, given how lucky we are with insurance right now? Do we need to beef something up there?
You hear?
On whether this will be a positive resolution, I mean, I imagine this is something that is, a common issue. And I would imagine that it's something that, should be fairly easily resolved. But, sort of no guarantee on that. Now, in terms of insurance, are you talking about insurance for the indemnification provision?
We think so.
Yeah.
Or over the radar signs. in general.
Radar.
That's probably a question for the insurance agent, but, Joey, as you pointed out, I don't know. I mean, we can pay them, but I don't know whether that'll accomplish that much.
Yeah, I mean, we paid him for other insurance that didn't do us any good already.
That's still trying to get price per gun.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think the position I would take on this is, if Blue Line won't indemnify us, then I think we take the position that we're just not gonna do it.
That tells us what we gotta do with this budget. Somehow balance it.
All right, any other questions for Warren? All right,
Thanks, Warren.
thanks, Warren.
Uh-huh.
Appreciate it. All right. Bye.
We're just taking a shot at our.
Yeah, I mean, like Tony said, there's so many people doing it. I'm sure that this has come up before.
For us to be the only city out of the state that's not gonna do it.
Yeah. Now, Mountain City did it, is that correct, or did they? not?
No, Baldwin.
Baldwin did,
Baldwin has it.
okay.
And their big fuss is because of the tickets people get, but they run it during the whole day.
Well, yeah, they don't have a school,
Yeah.
to my knowledge, I don't know that they
Yeah,
do.
They
right
do.
up by the road.
Well, they do, but they
Right.
run it all day long, where we only run it during the school
Right.
hours. That's what we
When the lights are
decided.
flashing.
Yeah, it wouldn't run during the summer, would it?
It'll be an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon. It won't run the whole entire day.
Right, yeah, they could get some issues with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. if you're
But
seeing-
still, I mean,
Yeah. it's-
there's cities that are doing that, like red lights and everything else, they're using
It's like-
cameras to.
Yeah, well, those are actually, a lot of places are taking their red light cameras down. Because they're
Yeah.
tired of the lawsuits, but I don't think this one resulted in quite the type,
Yeah.
quite the same.
Without any data in hand, we can't speculate. any budget.
It's hard. I know we had some data from Blue Line. Do you remember what what they projected the annual revenue might be?
One month it was around 84,000.
I think their initial proposal was running it all day during the school.
Oh,
I have to look back at that because when we.
Because I was surprised. I was like,
Well,
It's just that.
we only budgeted 125 last year, and that was with, so we
That was
obviously, it was more fresh in our brain then, so I think we had something.
It needs to be on the, there's kids getting buses every hour.
Yeah,
across the
cross.
road.
It does, but the signs they put up has the times on it. It'll be ran from 7:15 to 8:15 in the morning and in the afternoon.
I kind of agree with Tommy in a way is that,
He's right.
yeah, I mean.
He is right.
Yeah.
That's a corridor all day long.
Right,
But who has a say in those hours?
We do.
we do.
Yeah.
So who set the original hours?
We
Just-
did.
We did.
That's why we have those signs out there.
Yeah. You're next.
Oh, no, you're in there. You're one of us.
No, I didn't make that.
that's
There's a
BS.
few I'm not taking credit for.
Welcome to the gang.
Well, for budget purposes, you've got 100,000 in there now. Last year, we had, in theory, we thought that was gonna happen, we had 125. We know we're only pulling in based on COVID, we understand why, 55 to 85, probably 85,000 this year, roughly. Roughly.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll make that, but maybe 70.
Right, so in theory, if we were doing a safe budget, which we really don't have we were actually gonna go deeper in debt. I mean, we're gonna be deeper. In other words, if we say lower the 100,000 down to 85, not anticipating any revenue from the signal, we're gonna get
Oh, yeah.
we're gonna get more in the black. Red, I'm sorry.
Or if, if ticket, or
But how do you
COVID is
anticipate?
not,
That's
yeah, I
just
mean,
the
it's
same
all,
thing.
it's,
I mean,
it's
you
all.
gotta anticipate
It's a gamble.
falsely like we did last year. Do we do that again this year?
All it
I guess
takes
that's
is-
what I'm trying to say.
All it takes is gas prices going up again and people not wanting to travel and you don't have as many. There's no way.
I just don't see it right now. The traveling's crazy right now. There's people everywhere.
Yeah, but all it takes is a gas spike or.
Let's do
Uh,
more
Well,
gas.
a lot of it has to
Hurricane
do
shut
with
down
whether
the Gulf
GSP is,
it. Y'all wanna
Here.
flip a coin?
I mean, you might
That's
as well,
basically what we're
might as
doing.
well, yeah. I mean,
About where
There's
we are.
no way. We know that, I'm sorry, we know that we could bring in revenue around 85,000. I agree with that. I mean, that's with COVID, with gas hikes and everything. You've got 100, which seems reasonable. But, and then if, let's just say the school sign does pop up, it may go up to 150 to 160. But it doesn't help us now, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
But we're still operating under the premise that we can amend.
Yeah,
you can always, I mean, you can have more revenue than you.
But we've got a
budgeted.
balance right now.
Yeah, we need to be able to.
right, but then if in 60 days, he's able to resolve that and everything. I got another question based upon what Tommy said. How big of a deal is it if we wanted to extend those hours, which of course is gonna give you more revenue if you do it?
I'm all about that.
What's that?
I said, I'm all about that.
So what would be involved? What kind of legal things do we have to jump through to correct things?
I think you just remove the signs. We have a partnership with Blue Line. Yeah, we would just have to make the changes under our
It's
contract
just a
with Blue
code
Line.
enforced and that's it.
Because their computers or whatever have to be changed. That's
So they'll
all.
change what they.
Right. I don't think it's a big deal. They would probably come out and automatically change the signs for us. And they would update it. Maybe they charge us a fee. I'm not sure.
So the
Signs off.
Oh,
pre-existing
yeah.
school
They
zone
would
signs,
Right.
who controls those? Like, not the ones from Blue Line, but
DOT.
The flashing, no, I think this. Well, I don't know. I heard.
Between
two
DOT
things.
and then Michael at the school, he takes care of those.
so can those hours be changed?
Yeah, I've had him change. Because when I first started up here, they only ran for like 10 minutes or so before school started and then it quit. So I called him and said, hey, can you extend these hours to where they're supposed to be? So he can change all that himself at the school.
We can figure that out, but what about the budget? That's what we get through this.
I mean, I think 100 is a safe, pretty safe
I do too.
number.
It just doesn't help us out with any of the other issues.
One thing, if we can find out within 60 days. If we think we're gonna find out within 60 days, that just puts us clearly ahead of the time when we need to set millage rates.
June.
So we could make a budget based on this revenue, and then Blue Line comes in and we say, okay, we know we're gonna increase our revenue, let's adjust our millage rate differently.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so you can you can adjust it.
So we
You're
could work,
saying, Linda,
we could work like we have to
right
do a
up.
millage rate of whatever now, and then go, then later on say, okay, well, this worked out, we don't need that millage rate.
Right.
All right, so can we come back with this then?
To the millage rate?
Yeah, I mean, we'll come back to the police budget on the 100. Leave it at 100 right now.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get this budget.
Yeah.
Because we
I know
may,
since 3:30.
You want to have.
I get it, I get, we got a lot of stuff to discuss. This is just budget, so I want to try to get through it.
and we can always, Warren may get hold of them next week, and it sounds like it's gonna work out, we know before we finish our budget. So there is that possibility too.
My guess is if Blue Line hasn't had to sign it with anybody else, they're not going to. That's just my guess. So, might need to find out how other cities are justified.
Where's our insurance? Talking about insurance, where's our insurance in here
Administration.
under administration? How much is that?
Well, it's, some of it's spread out
Spread out.
by, departments that. It's under insurance other than what we're talking about, under each department.
Like insurance is in what's covering.
Like our liability
Mhm.
and vehicles and all that, but like police vehicles are charged to the police department, fire.
Is it page 6 under legal?
Legal is just attorney fees.
That's,
So it's
for employees, it's under group employees.
Insurance other than WC Health.
Yeah.
52.31.
It's under other purchase services. So
Page 7.
I think we're maybe to fire, maybe to fire.
Why are we
Other than
lower
insurance.
than 2021?
They
Surprising.
didn't do it.
I know. Even that, they're still overpaid, but, I mean, we were at 2245 for 2021 budget, and now we're at 2,000.
Those are actual, yeah.
Which one are you on?
He's at insurance, yeah, under admin.
Well, it's 4,000 total, and it was. Is that right? Sorry.
Where do you see? 4,000?
When you add 2,000, 52.31
Hmm.
under administration.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's 2,000.
Yeah, he's looking at the 2021 spouse and the 2021 actual at 2,245, and it's just asking why it's lower, but it's really not, right?
Well, this
We're
year it
budgeting.
was,
Well,
this year it was 13, 18. I mean, it kind of varies. Sometimes we get, or I forgot what they call it, kind of like a rebate,
No,
so. Anyway.
Do we will though,
Rebate for no
we're gonna come
services.
back because we're gonna look at, our insurance company does provide a cybersecurity coverage of some sort. We need to look at, see what it covers first. And then see what that costs. It's an add-on. So if we go with another IT company, we might want to consider having, because that's essentially what this other company is wanting to increase is they're saying, we will provide you that level of security. We might be able to get something less through insurance. So,
I also asked them for a quote on the,
planning and zoning.
on the zoning,
Yeah.
well,
extra that they haven't given.
you mean insuring the planning and zoning? Is that what you're?
No, getting the
Our
zoning
zoning
insurance we thought we
actions.
had. That we thought we had, trying to see what that costs.
Because I was wondering. I know we're, Mr. Hart, do you remember what we're paying for insurance for the DDA?
$3,200 or something is a fairly accurate figure.
I mean, I'm just wondering if we give them a package deal, or could we do anything like that? You know, not bring it down, because ultimately, the city's paying for the DDA too, so.
Well, they wouldn't do it when we asked them the first time. Remember, Linda, we talked to them and we asked them if they'd write us on the city's policy.
Yeah, I mean, they would, but only if we had control.
Control of the DDA, which you don't. Well, you effectively do. You effectively have control, but not under state law. So, that's what their answer was.
So.
I mean, I still, if you, well, first of all, going back to this insurance group, are we still trying to pursue to get them to cover?
I mean, that was,
Not sure how to answer that.
yeah. I mean,
There's executive session discussions.
Um,
Won't be careful.
So then the other thing, I'm just wondering if we can, if we, for example, did do the DDA with one group, even though you had to split it out, would you be able to get any kind of a discount to bring anything down by doing that?
There's very few companies that will even insure municipalities and counties and that kind of thing. There's one that a lot of people went to, it's been probably 10 years ago now, but, and they ended up going defunct, so that left cities in a real bond.
We used to
That
have
may be-
VFIS. Before we went with GMA, or I don't know, whatever it is. We had VFIS, but I don't know if that was just fire coverage, 'cause usually that's where I see it, is in fire department.
We also get the $6,000 safety net, you know, assuming we turn in,
Okay, so is the
Assuming what?
fire
assuming we
department,
turn it in.
is the fire
Oh, I
department
know
not
you do.
covered here?
Do I?
Is the fire department not covered here?
Yeah,
That
fire
is-
department is covered. yeah.
That is part of this, or?
Not
is
the
that-
2,000, that's in the fire budget.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
on the fire.
So is that a separate policy as
No, it's
well?
all,
No,
it's
all
one,
budget.
I just have to split it.
Yes, that's when Jolie says that the fire department budget went up by what, 85% or 800% or whatever. What it was we used to account for things differently, where all the insurance, police, fire, everything was being covered under the administrative budget. And when Linda took over and started breaking things out, yeah, you start seeing what it really costs to have a fire department, police department, so forth.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, we separated out as to its portion, but it's all one policy still. So, except for DDA. So, let's see.
All right,
Where are we, fire?
fire, do we need to add in something?
Well, I don't know what Paul wants to do per se. He talked, we had the 4,000 a year, like Linda said earlier, for, supposed to be for fuel and wear and tear on personal vehicles. Paul wanted to convert that to being something kind of incentivize people to get training and get some activity in the fire department, or interest at least. So we don't have it in here. It got overlooked, but that was 4,000. We'd need to find somewhere else.
We still got the 1,000 in travel meals, hotel, I don't think, probably don't need that.
We used that 1 year to get some training officers certified. We all went down to Jeff Stick, 3 of us did. So that was,
Well, in 2020 actual, it was 4,300.
So that's the year we did pay out, we did it under
Okay, so that's where you put it.
reimbursement,
Okay, gotcha.
travel, or, mileage.
So if we were to add it in, that's where it would go under.
well, we talked about putting it back under wages
Okay.
and just not exceeding $600 per firefighter, because then we won't have to withhold if anyone got less than $600 in a year. We're going to do withholding. And that's the way Raven County does it. The firefighters in Raven County get $600 a year to help offset their costs.
You don't think they're doing it under contract? right?
They might be. Oh,
That's
so
what I
we
would
would do that contract in here?
So
Okay.
under
You
education.
put it under contract labor.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you do it under contract labor, then you're hitting them with an additional expense. They're gonna have
They don't
that.
have to report less than $600.
It's not
from
that
their
money.
employer. So,
So you'd take 1,000 out of travel and meals hotel, and if we were to do 4,000,
I think that'd be a safe bet.
okay, we'd bring it under contract labor.
And
So
again,
just go with another 3.
So we're
There's
-3 there.
zero entered for fuel.
They get
Because
theirs free.
Negative
we
3.
get ours from the county. Yeah, there's an agreement there.
I'm still learning.
Both counties, or just
It's just Raven.
Raven gives you free fuel for the truck?
For the fire.
Yeah, Abersham doesn't give us anything at all.
Okay.
Raven County, if it wasn't for Raven County, our fire department would be hurt. for equipment, all sorts of things. So
And as long as we're on fire, I'm gonna bring this up, but I heard, I think at the first meeting I attended, that we've got a 30-year-old fire truck,
yeah,
right?
we got a 32-year-old fire truck.
32-year-old fire truck. So do we have any kind of a plan for replacing that fire truck? Are we budgeting anything for new equipment?
Other than our SPOS, we have no capital budget at all.
That's why I tried to
We
guard
depend on
SPOS.
SPOS.
So I've tried to guard SPOS diligently, I guess. Even though the mentality was, well, you've got the money, you need to spend it. Well, we were trying to hold on to it, and build it up for that day, because new fire truck, even with no equipment on it, it's gonna be $500,000. And it won't fit in this station. We'd have to build out our station somehow. So add on the cost of construction, build a house, a fire truck.
Don't they have programs you can get it from other municipalities or fire districts?
Yeah, you can buy used trucks, but
I thought they had some.
Is there
Wasn't
anything
this
wrong
one
with our
used?
current equipment?
not yet, but, 30 years old, we're gonna, at
Was-
some point,
Was this one given to us last time? Is that, or
No,
we
they were
bought
bought.
it used?
but, no, they were bought new.
They were bought.
With SPOS and other monies like that. So I think Raven County helped offset the cost of one of the trucks. And we got a huge discount on the rescue truck because it was a display model. And since we didn't spec it out, they gave us a really big discount on it. And it was bought with SPOS money also.
But I just wondered, I mean,
But that's back when trucks were 120 to 300,000 at the most. So.
realistically, do we know how much life is left?
It'd be really hard to say. We do have the best performing trucks in both counties. When we go for service tests, like pump tests, everything else, they always come back. I think we had to do some repair on the engine the last time, replace some valves. But we're still among the highest performing in both counties. We can draw a draft on both those trucks, and some of the county trucks can't. So we're in good shape, but like you say, we try to plan ahead.
Yeah.
And there are grant programs that would help us out when we got to that point. There are no interest loans that you can get. Problem is whether we have the revenue to pay those loans back, so forth. So there are ways to help. You can buy used trucks, but there are all sorts of problems with that. Both counties have bought used ladder trucks, and they're spending more than they spend on the trucks, fixing them up and getting them where they could actually use them. So you're not gonna buy a used truck that's gonna be in great shape. It's gonna be one that another fleet's getting rid of because it has problems. Yeah. So.
But the idea is to save up the SPOS to go against that in a
That's-
future event.
That's one avenue, yeah.
Do you have to can you roll over SPOS, or do you have to spend it each year?
Yeah, you can.
You can roll
And then like with other revenues, there are other monies we've got stashed away in the bank, CDs and so forth, that could help. But we buying one truck and blow all that out pretty fast.
Yeah.
So, but that's why it's hard to try to spend it on other things when you've got in the back of your mind that someday you may have to replace a truck.
But for budgeting, you would put the cost in there, budget.
Not for this, so,
Budget would be like for maintenance or other items.
yeah.
I mean, ideally, if you had enough revenue, you put some towards
It's
that
like
every
a
year.
savings.
Kind of,
I
yeah.
thought that would be.
Like a
Kinda like
designated
your-
fund, possibly.
You can kind of.
Like, I mean, that one's fully depreciated, but you try to kind of offset your depreciation expense.
So
with-
you'd have a category called depreciation or whatever.
That's an ideal one.
Yeah.
And then,
Roads, Manuel did request an increase in his maintenance of $50
50 a month, yeah.
offset his fuel.
and that's shown in your.
And that's
budget.
shown in.
Yeah.
We did increase, or I did increase tree trimming some, seems like we keep having that as a reoccurring thing,
Because
so.
of
Yeah.
storms, yeah.
Yeah, I've got another one coming y'all's way as soon as I can get the
bumped it up some.
Did they bring a bid by today?
Mhm.
Got some dead branches hanging over another road in town. Somebody get a bid on that. Get it removed. So,
And then our LMIG this year, was back up to the 14,340. It changes every year, but anyway, so I upped it again back because they're down to the 13, and then now it's back up to the 14. I guess the formula changes slightly every year. And we have not done our LMIG projects. Working on.
We have more money.
Good bit of road money, but, I mean, available
Yeah,
at our disposal.
so we can use, but we got to match 30% on the LPAC, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. That's what- You gave me that number, that's the one I was working with.
No, I don't think there's too much excellent. That brings us to water. He's looking at his time.
Can we adjourn for 5?
Sure. I'll be right there.
Bringing some props.
Water. Bringing a water sample from
Bringing
his house.
PVCs.
Water sample from his house, be my guess. He's in bad shape.
This tank's starting to clean.
Yeah. They haven't even put in the spigot they said they needed to be able to do it.
Think they said they were supposed to be here this evening. That's in there, it's got-
I heard that last month.
But they haven't communicated with me.
I got through, man, I hate to ask, but my parents cooked me a big birthday thing, so I kind of left it.
Happy birthday.
It's-
Happy 21st.
It is Saturday, but I always cook early, so. Johnny,
No, I think we're good.
appreciate it.
Mhm.
Thanks.
All right, I'm gonna pause this.
All right.
Back for a meeting.
All right, back from recess.
All right. There's a lot going on with our water system. I guess that's nothing new, but now we've got even more stuff going on. The EPD has received at least 2 complaints. One concerning the iron levels in our water, and 2, that the fire department is not monitoring how much water is being used.
Okay, I can speak to that right now.
Please. do.
We are not using city water. We've historically not used city water. The one time or 2 times we did report it to EMS. We typically fill our trucks off of the county water system and off of the Demorest system on Tuggle Village Road. So,
Okay.
so I can
Well, again,
speak to
those,
that.
I haven't seen it in writing yet. I've only heard it. But those are and because they've received complaints, the EPD now has to pursue that.
Right.
Last week, the Georgia Rural Water Association came by and looked at our pump house. And again, they looked specifically at our filtration system. And they're trying to, the first time they looked at it a while back, they couldn't really grasp all that was going on there. And I've not physically seen it. But now what they have determined with this visit last week is that 50%, there's a valve in place that puts 50% of our water supply bypassing the filtration system. So only at best, half of our water is running through that filtration system. Now, the other thing I need to say is it's really not a filtration system, it's a water softening system. By the way, it does some filtration, but its purpose mainly because we continue to add 6 to 8 bags of salt is for water softening. And it's not capable of truly removing all the iron in our water. Now, right now, based on the Rural Water Authority and their readings, and they just took this last week, we're at 7.5 times the required rust iron in our water.
So our water guys that we've got hired, why haven't they noticed this?
Well, they're the ones that called the Georgia Rural Water Authority. They have a great working relationship with them.
I got you, but they did it now, but they've been working for us for how long? Probably 2 years, 3 years? Why in the hell didn't they do this 3 years ago? Does that make any sense?
Well, it does, and I think something has changed in our supply from the well. Again, we were operating at 2 wells, now we're down to 1. We shut off the other well a year ago, right, when we put in the new tank.
Yeah.
So we're pulling from 1 well.
I got you.
We're also pulling from the well that's approaching end of life.
Right, but
And
we started pulling from that well over a year ago, off 1 well, right? We closed that 1 well down.
It was a little over a year ago. When we were pumping, we were trying to maintain the level of the tank with that well.
Again, I'm just trying to figure out what's initiated this check now, and why didn't they do that when we went to 1 well? Does that make any sense?
It does, yeah, it does, and
Why are they doing it now?
Because we've seen an increase in complaints on water quality in certain areas.
And-
I've
Yeah,
heard about water
complaints-
quality complaints since I've lived here, so
Well,
20 years.
And
20
the
years.
complaints the EPD get are all anonymous, so we can't even figure out.
So it's because of the complaint to the EPD that they actually decided to do their job?
No,
Okay,
no, that's not in this case, no.
okay, I got you. You see what I'm asking? I'm just trying to figure out.
No, and it's justified,
Yeah.
but, I mean, it's a valid question, but no, again, with what I've been working with the folks from EMS now, for the past month, on a regular basis, still get my feet wet prior to that, so I'm still coming up to speed. From everything I've asked, they seem to be very responsive. What I'm proposing, and again, this may not be the time nor the place, but I think it is, and I've asked Linda for some numbers, but we have couple of main issues. One is water quality, no question about it. Two, we don't have a long-term plan to replace this well when it does approach end of life, and it is in that process. And obviously, one thing we could do is to drill another well. And for example, Terry Dobbs just drilled a well, and she's getting 16 gallons per minute and getting very clear water, So I'm not saying that drilling a new well wouldn't solve a lot of our issues. It may. But again, we're not planning for it.
Did the geologist locate some other sites for potential wells when he did his?
I think so. That was before I was here, but I think I've
I've-
seen some indication.
One of the
that
notebooks I
that's
wanted to get
done.
with you about, we were trying to set up a meeting just a couple of weeks, or several weeks ago.
Yeah.
I was gonna go over that notebook with you, but there is a notebook, I believe, a geologist did locate some sites for potential
Well,
wells.
what happened, I mean, when Hickory Nut Mountain first started being developed, I mean, he had a number of different
We
wells.
still have deeds for most of those wells. I think there's one that we don't.
Have they been closed?
I have no idea. I don't know if
Well,
they've been capped or
we're
not.
about to find out, because when Bo Jordan comes back to do the rest of the work for Terry, the one that's across the street from me on McElroy side, he's gonna look at
Okay.
to just basically see if it's still viable.
And what I do know was that he was using those into the nineties. Wayne Harris was,
Right,
and it was early 2000s or really late nineties. I can't remember exactly when he switched over and started supplementing those wells with city water. And then a lot of wells up there went dry early 2000s. And that's when most of the people tied into this. I think he shut down all his wells and then started just sending just city water up. One little bit of history for y'all's sake, while we're talking about the well back here. Back in the 80s, from what I've heard, produced pretty good water. This is according to James, I think James Turpin. Produced pretty good water. What happened was someone convinced the council that if they drilled just a little bit deeper, they could get a higher flow out of that well. And that's when we started having iron problems with them there. When they went deep enough, they finally hit that iron, but they didn't have it before then. So it's very likely that because been using that for so long, that iron is just continuing to build up. Now, one thing we did have a problem with, may have been before EMS was here, when we saw a spike in iron coming directly out of the well, it was because the casing had rusted so bad, it was shooting the casing iron back down into the well. So, but we didn't discover that until we ran a camera down the hole. So
But I got
What-
replaced.
that got replaced, but it still could. I mean, it's just galvanized pipe.
I was looking at another option completely opposite of the whole well thing. Again, we're connected to a 2-inch line currently from Demarest. There's a 6-inch line from Demarest that ends at the school. We could not easily, but at some point, we could continue that 6-inch into the city and
Tie
bypass the
into the
2-inch.
Dennis.
What's that?
Yeah, tie into them.
Tie into it. Demarest right now, based on the figures that Linda gave me, is charging us 0.003 cents a gallon. We're billing at 0.16 cents a gallon. That's over 5 times what it would cost us from Demarest. And one of the things that, and I'm sorry if I'm bouncing from one point to the next, but next week, American Tank is coming in to clean our tank. All right. We have talked with Brian Rent, our city engineer. And one of the issues that would come up if we were to connect to Demarest long-term is it's got a higher pressure than what our system could handle. It would blow our system. So what EMS is doing right now is putting in pressure release valves on the fire hydrants. and that would compensate for the increased pressure from Denver. What I'm proposing we do after the tank cleaning, and the part of the process would involve this anyway, is they would shut the well off after the tank's been cleaned, flush it with Denver. And then once the flushing is done, I say we run it for another 48 to 72 hours. And let's see how that, it hopefully improves our overall
Because
supply.
we start pulling back out of the well, it's just gonna dirty up the tank we just cleaned.
Right, at
If
best,
we don't put a filtration system on.
well, absolutely, and
Yeah.
at best, we're gonna have always a 35% iron content in our water, at the very best.
Why, can you fill the tank up with Dennis and just
Well,
work off
and
Dennis?
especially when I look at the numbers,
Yeah,
we could turn our water department, from what I can tell, and I need somebody to keep me on track, but we could become profitable.
yeah, just turn it, well, it would give us to help us out with money to help the infrastructure, replace the
Right.
pipes. Yeah, I'm with you.
You know,
I've
and
always
then
thought
that
about Dennis.
SPOS, or not SPOS, but grant that we put at 400,000 would help us maybe go to that 6-inch line. The other thing it would do was then, in time, give us enough water to our fire hydrants where they can actually function.
And I think we discussed that in the past, but we were always worried about that 2-inch line that came across Mr. Kirkland's property. It's not, is that easement? I don't think it is easement.
Yeah, it'd probably be an easy one.
Okay.
No, turbine makes it do it.
That's the way we were feeding off the Dennis. Does that make sense? That's
It
why we're
does.
currently feeding off of it. So we would have to have a route for the 6-inch. That was always our problem,
Yeah.
switching totally over to Dennis, I thought.
Well, and I wasn't aware of that, so.
Yeah.
Again,
Pressure, and the pressure thing, I'd have to double check, but if you're putting pressure relief valves on the hydrants, and we're pumping, what was it, 100 PSI more than what our system's set up for,
right,
those pressure relief valves would be dumping water on the ground that we're paying for.
Well, you
from
could
Denver's.
meter, when you meter off the Dennis line, you put that pressure system in with the meter.
Yeah.
Just like they do individual houses. And then that would reduce the pressure coming
Okay.
into the city.
Okay, so not, because he was talking about.
Well, if you gotta
pressure
run a
relief
new
valves.
6 line, we've gotta run a 6-inch over here anyway, the 2-inch isn't gonna do it.
well, and we don't know that for a fact, I mean, the short term, we could.
Short term, you could use the
We can
2-inch,
use
but the
it,
long term
But
plan of
ultimately,
using
we
the
need a
6.
6-inch, and that would then give us full fire service.
Right, and that would allow us
Which
to
we don't
upgrade
have.
all the other, the main trunk lines, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Beef them up.
And
to a
what they
large-
currently would do is, again, leave the well off, fill the tank with the Demarest, and then we pump from the tank.
Hmm,
And that's what we would do.
kind of
Now,
flush the system, yeah.
what we'd have to do is to make sure it doesn't overflow, so we'd have to monitor the tank levels until we get an automatic system in place. But for what I'm proposing for the next 3 days after the tank is cleaned, is let's see what we get. Because right now, the results are awful. I mean, I'm experiencing it more than maybe some, I don't know, but I look at the dollars and cents and I scratch my head why we haven't done it sooner.
Okay. One thought though is if we're buying water from Demarest that's being managed by their water, would we need our water department anymore after that?
Yes, because we still have to guarantee the EPD the results. So we still have to run the system tests, the water checks, those still have to be done.
If you hold a tank, if you have a tank, you would have to,
Right.
have a water department.
The other thing that we may
Stormwater.
run into, and it's not a major thing, is that because of the distance involved, our level of chlorine may be less than we need. So we may have to add a chlorinator to the system, which is not a huge deal, but that would be the only drawback that we could experience. Now, the other thing is it was premature to contact Demarest, I felt, until we knew if this would improve us. If it improves us based on the test next week, then we need to touch base with Demarest and make sure everything is copacetic.
Right, because we may be having, our price rate may be based on us using them for emergencies, and they may not be, you know, may have to give us a higher rate if we're gonna be continually buying.
They may, and I don't
Or
think.
they give us a better rate.
They may give us a better rate.
Yeah.
We also need to make sure that they can supply what we need.
Right.
And when we spent all the money for all the future water stuff in the past, was it ever brought up to connect from the Demorest or increase that flow, that size?
So
So it was always independent water
it was
source.
always drilling new wells.
Okay.
So who was it that we were talking a year or so back about selling water to? Was that Denver?
That was Cordelia.
That was Cordelia. We need
That-
to-
that-
That's a
dead deal.
different system.
Yeah, it was pulling it, drawing out of the water, selling to them with the hope of running a second line because they were gonna do all the infrastructure. So when they ran that line, we were hoping that we could also then have another line coming back into the town to supply us that way. But the $100,000 that we spent in doing all the due diligence needed to make that happen, then we lost that time frame. So that's a dead deal. We have to start from square one again. So we wasted $100,000.
So are you saying we change what are you, make a connection to the budget here?
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is that, you know, it's possible that the losses that we see and that we have to take 10,000 from the general fund and supplement water, it's possible that we won't have to do any of that. And whatever extra revenue we bring in just from our billing could then help improve the infrastructure that's in place. So, and again, I really would like Linda to look at my math to make sure it's correct, but I don't think we'll be operating in a loss any longer.
So what,
And we're gonna be getting, and this is really most important, is our overall water quality will be better than we've had in years.
so basically what you think we'd be saving on would be
The 10,000?
electricity, I'm talking about expenditures
The
for
the
water.
only electricity you would save is from the well pump and the well.
Yeah, it's very little
Because
of
we've-
electricity, it's chemicals, but we may still have some.
Well, we wouldn't have the salt.
The salt we wouldn't need.
We wouldn't need the salt. We'd still need chlorine.
Yeah, and to what extent it could be minimal.
It could be less, it could be the same. It wouldn't necessarily be more.
Right, no, we don't anticipate that.
I would expect more.
And again, it's also possible that Demers could change what they're sending and add the chlorine, increase their level there. And by the time it gets to us, it's right where it needs to be. We don't have to do anything.
Right.
So again, a lot of that, until we have a direct conversation with them, we don't have all the answers. And yes, I'd like to see the water department become at least balanced in their revenue and expenses, but my main goal is to improve the quality of the water and reduce the issues and complaints that we're currently getting.
So in your math though, where are you coming up with the savings?
Where's the cut? That's what she's asking, yeah.
Did you look into what it costs for us to produce water per gallon right now?
Well, that I have to get from Georgia Rural Water Authority, and then I have not gotten the figure from them yet.
Well,
Because we're producing it less than 0.003 per gallon, then
Well, then it doesn't make any
it doesn't make any
sense.
sense. It's costing us more
Yeah.
than that to produce the
And
water.
I don't have a definite number yet.
Right.
I only have
Yeah, they were just here.
guesses.
Earlier this week.
Well,
They were
it
just here.
it should show, I mean, if you add a bill to us, it's gonna increase our expenses. We know that. So you gotta have some cuts. So if you tie into Demorest, it's gonna increase the expenses. Cuts have to be maintenance of the well.
Maintenance of the well, the
Maintenance of the
salt.
well.
Water operator.
I don't know.
Something, but it sounds like
Yeah,
we
It's
still
gotta,
need that.
it needs something big.
Plus it,
That makes some sense.
but you're right, but we wouldn't also have the additional improvements in the system that we've talked about, adding another tank, other things down the road. We wouldn't need those. I mean,
No, we would still need
Still
to
do
add the
that.
tank.
There's the revenue's not coming in.
Yeah.
If
The
that
tank,
makes
what we
any
wouldn't
sense.
need is that new filter, which would eliminate, according to Brian, that filtration system that
Which
would
is what we really need bad. if we're
would
gonna
get
keep
rid of
our
all the iron,
Yeah.
almost 100%, according to Brian. But that's $300,000. So that we wouldn't need if we went with
Right.
Demorest.
Yeah.
But that's not budgeted in any of this
it's
year.
not,
And
Now,
we'd still want to increase most of our lines in town to 6 inch for fire coverage. And we would still need, in order for Hickory Nut Mountain to have true fire coverage, we'd need a tank at the top of Hickory Nut somewhere.
That 300,000 is interesting because we definitely, if we stay the route we're at now, we have to do filtration system. We've already discussed that, right?
Yeah, well, we do have a bid that Scott Porter had gotten for us for 25,000 for a system that guaranteed to get 90 to 95% of the iron out. But it's another ion exchange system like we've already got. It's just a much newer system. And it's, like I said, it's 25, I think was the cost, would probably be closer to 30 or 35 by
and
now.
I'd say probably 35, but again, we'd have to check that. Now Scott Porter's now left the company, but,
Yeah.
but I think we could,
But there's, we still have that information,
Yeah.
we could look into it. Because this ion exchange system, the filter media has to be swapped out every, I want to say, it's really ought to be swapped out every 5 to 8 years. And it's about $18,000 each time you do it.
well, and again, I need to reinforce that the system that we currently have is only processing half our supply,
Right.
just 50%,
It's because they're bypassing it.
because
I
it's
didn't know
being
they were
bypassed.
Who bypassed?
Well,
I mean, you just called us all, perfect. We didn't know.
yeah, well,
bypassed.
it caught me off guard when I heard
Yeah.
that last week from, I
Somebody
talked to
bypassed
Guy from
Can we not
Georgia Water.
shut that bypass off and see what happens if we ran it?
I doubt our system that we currently have would be able to handle.
That's probably why they put it in, because the filtration system we have would not handle that amount of flow. So that's the problem. You have to double.
And here we think we're getting
Way to
full
do that.
filtration and we're not. We never have that.
It's weird.
Who put that in?
It was her.
Yeah, Linda snuck down there and did it.
Well,
Now that other filter, the newest one, what is that? That's a
The one that, the 25,000?
sand pit thing? What is that?
Oh,
Oh, no, the sand pit is because when we back flush these filters, the ion exchange, the reason we use salt is that the sodium in the salt will replace the iron in the water. And the iron sticks to the medium that's in the filters. When we back flush those periodically through the week, now it's not every night, but several times, about 4,000 gallons a month worth of back flush. That back flush goes into that sand pit and sits, lets the iron settle out, and then the water overflows the
it
pipe.
feeds off the middle.
Right.
back into the creek.
Into the creek, but there still might be iron in that, but that's another conversation for another day about EPD. But,
I just know EMS had said that was not functioning very well either.
As well as it could be. We have
that's
issues.
to
The one that
protect
we
the
were-
back flush, back. I mean,
that's to,
And we're still trying to get
that's
the
not- that
discharge
doesn't- that
permit from
doesn't do anything with the Water that
EPD.
we drink.
but-
And again, I guess when I look at everything, I just see a lot of Band-Aids. And I'm hoping that maybe Demarest would give us a solid solution to this. Until we come up with something even better. But and again, we've got to work through where it fits in the budget. And I can't give you an accurate number until I find out what it costs us for water.
you know how soon you'd be able to have those numbers?
Guy did not give me a time frame, but I can reach out to him and see if I can get it.
So we can fast track,
Yeah,
at least to know what our per gallon cost is to produce the water based on everything.
and again, I mean, we've got to connect to Demarest Water to flush the tank after it's been cleaned.
Right.
And I, again, would like to extend that connection to 72 hours. That'll give us a full, the first 24 hours after the tank's cleaned, we won't see anything. The next 24 hours, we'll see more of an improvement. By that third day, should see really good results.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see that and look at the data based on those 3 days.
But the interesting thing on that would be, so the Flint, Michigan problem came up because they changed water sources. So I'd be curious to see that with our pipes having been coated with that aquadine, if changing the Demarest will make that stuff start sloughing off more or not. And that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, this would give us 3 days of data and because they would test every day. And we could just take it from there and see. And if we see that this is working the way we hope it will, then we quickly have a meeting with Demarest and find out, can our rate improve? Can you supply what we need? And go from there.
And the offset that additional expenditure if you switch to would be wouldn't need a new filtration system. You'd have to
That's not
anticipate.
in the budget.
I know, it's crazy. That's why I was talking it out.
Yeah. So I don't know,
I don't know how you would ever,
yeah, if
Balance
the
that.
water operations like EMS's fee, does it stay the same? Do
Well,
they have
I
to
was
do any
wondering.
less,
Well, and
because I don't see where the offset's
Yeah,
gonna.
they'd have to do the same.
kind of offset the cost from.
right, well, and
It's
I've
just
got
not
one
there.
more to throw at you.
Yeah.
Don't shoot the messenger. But EMS has not been paid to read meters for the past 2 years. When they started reading meters, they were at, this was when Terry was mayor, that, from what I'm told, that we'll figure it out. And so, but 2 years later, they're still not being paid to read meters.
I thought we discussed this.
And so they're proposing a $400 a month increase to cover that.
I'll be glad to go pull their contract.
You pull the contract, check
It
that.
says that
because
there's
I-
no-
Yeah,
that they would
again, I-
read meters.
I don't have all the details.
Did I send you the new one with the $44 increase that they sent me back in January? Let me find out some.
I'll just look for the little.
Okay, yeah, it's identical, just they went up by $44.
We went over that meter thing one time before, I just can't remember.
Not since I've been here.
No,
We went
this
over
was,
No, I'm reasonably sure that in their agreement for the $1,100 a month, they would be reading meters 1 day a month.
I mean, it doesn't matter now. I mean, they're wanting to increase.
Well, they increased their base rate by $44, which isn't unreasonable. We just went up $50 from Manuel, so.
Sure.
If we get our grant, we'll get radio generators.
Yeah,
I'll drive around.
just, try to run. It rings.
So no changes on water.
Well, I think what we're gonna need to do is find, no changes on water.
It's kind of hard.
We're gonna have to-
determine
We need to
now at
find
this point.
some information,
I mean, it's like,
more interest.
it's like we're going through this, but literally about everything we're hitting is, if we could do it 60 days from now, I mean, it's almost like what David was saying, you gotta do a good faith budget right now, and then in 60, 90 days,
And that's what we're discussing. We're having good faith talking about, it, but we see future things, but if we add that expense in on this budget, we blow us out of the water.
yeah, I mean, the savings, I think the savings Scott's talking about is kind of a long term.
It's
what we
long
wouldn't
term,
have
it'd be
to
the
do.
filtration and the other stuff.
But,
It's good we're talking about it.
but the need for that filtration system has to be sooner than later.
That's right. It's a real expense now.
It is.
Yeah.
We're here. I mean,
That's not in this budget, so if
No.
you put it in here, then that may offset the expense. I mean, it's gonna be
yeah.
balances either way,
Oh, goodness.
so it's just an expense.
But I mean, there's a possibility that Demarest might be able to filter before its coming year.
Well, we don't, if we hook to dimmers, we don't have to filter.
We don't have to filter.
Once we clean the tank, we wouldn't have to.
Yeah,
That's the
water
whole
coming out
key.
of
The problem is
Demarest-
we stay in our system, we're gonna have to spend this amount on this expensive filter, so it could offset the cost of Demer's meter fees.
And from what I understand,
Maybe not.
if and when we were to have a 6-inch line, we wouldn't be going through the tanks and all of that. We'd just be
That's correct.
pressurized.
Currently,
To
you
the
have to
house.
put,
Yeah.
yeah. You'd still have to go run your infrastructure. but-
Right.
Meter
Those
readings,
are
but
meter
it's not-
readings, those are meter readings from daily attendance to read the meters and chlorine.
I've gotten 6 complaints about water in the past month.
We've been complaining about water for 20 years.
Well-
I mean, if you guys say it's great, that's not.
Well, I think a lot of folks have just thrown up their hands.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as the water gets shut off, it shakes the lines. And that's the scale falls off the lines and comes
That's
through the
where-
lines. And guess where it ends up? Right down in the corner of my house right over there. I have to flush those lines forever. Because I don't lose water, but when y'all finally get water up top, it just blows mud. I mean, pure mud down to my house, pure mud. I blow it right out the back.
Joyce is the same way.
Yeah. I have the benefit of not running out of water as quick as Joey and the guys, but I'm telling you, as soon as it pops on, we can't wash clothes, can't do anything. I have to go turn
We
it on
haven't,
and flush.
we got out to a laundromat for 2 weeks now.
Yeah, oh, I know where you live. Yeah, I'm just saying I'm in a similar predicament if it goes
Now we
on
can't
and
do
on.
laundry. I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
I
we
think,
can't drink it. We haven't been able to drink it
right.
for a year.
But I don't call and complain. I've just been doing it for years. I go blow it out.
that's what Bill was saying about flushing. He said we might be flushing the hydrants wrong by shutting them off too fast. Said he'd turn them down real slow when he did a flush because he didn't want that water here to knock that stuff off the lines.
That's right.
And so that may be part of the reason. We think we're doing good and we're causing more problems.
What
I
did you
can
find out
see,
in their?
You can see their point.
I think I can see their point.
Okay.
When I read it, I thought they were gonna collect meter readings once a month or once a week. They'd come in and collect meter readings with these, I don't know. The wording's kind of vague.
Well,
They had a
It
handshake.
just says all meter readings, but it's talking about like when they're here once a week, which they don't read household meters. once a week, so. But they've never been one to not bill us for anything they've
Well,
Yeah.
done, so.
This is a new.
again, I
So
can
what's-
only tell you
What's their
coming.
increase per month if they read meters?
It would be 400.
So 444, because we've got,
We've already got that increase.
Yeah, the four.
but we haven't applied it to the budget.
The $44.
Did you?
Is
did
it
you apply
applied
it?
in the budget?
Yeah, that's.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I didn't send her the email, but she knew about it. So,
Okay.
Because they've
Well, the
already.
$44 is already
Yeah,
happened.
it's already been happening,
But
starting in January.
So you need to add 400 to the budget then.
For a month, so that's.
4,800.
We gotta come up with.
So we're negative 48 again. I keep doing a lot of negatives
yeah,
on the budget. Okay. Well, I know.
Well, I mean, that's if they read meters. If we read the meters, and we have someone read the meters, a water guide or our Tanya drives around town.
Well, that's another $4,800 you can use. That way we understand. If
Yeah.
we made a change. Yeah.
We made some
Consider that
changes,
also.
so
Okay,
don't think we're gonna make a final budget decision tonight.
yeah.
I think we got way too many questions.
there's a lot of open-ended stuff. I mean, based on expense and also possibly additional revenue. We need some answers.
Well, we can't balance unless we get additional revenue, period, right? Based on the current budget.
We'd have to do that revenue.
Additional revenue would have to be in fines and forfeitures. That's it.
Or
I mean,
military.
am I wrong? Or military increase, I apologize. Yeah, military rate or that. So right now, we've got to apply it to the military rate and then make the amendment if that everything cleared up in 60 days. I understand we have water things to deal with later that we would, but for budgeting, that's what we need to do right now.
And I think the conversation with Joe from Baldwin is what that needs to take place soon.
I'll try to call them tomorrow.
And I'll reach out to Guy and find out, when I think we'll get a cost.
So to get this budget to the state capital is our goal at the moment, that we've discussed all the other issues. I got that. I totally understand it. I'm just saying, we have to have a reasonable budget without having to over discuss it again.
Yeah.
But we have brought up great points, which I got. So your hotel motel tax, I guess, that's going up.
But it is up.
Oh, good.
a little bit. So we have another one on the loop road now, so.
That's right.
Added a little revenue.
So you anticipated that?
And,
What is that, an Airbnb or?
Yeah, that little brick house on the loop.
And Airbnb and VRBO, HomeAway, all those have to collect and send it to us directly now, so we're
So it's easy for you.
relying less on
Yeah,
the
that's good.
people doing it. It gets
Okay.
done automatically,
Yeah, so-
unless they do it on the side and then they're responsible to report it.
Which is nice because then we avoid the problem of not knowing that someone's doing something,
Right.
because that's the problem. We can't. I mean, we'd have to get on there every few weeks and check and see who's
Well,
advertising.
and it-
blah, blah,
The really strange thing about it is they are not allowed to report
blah. Who it is, that's right. I forgot
What?
about that.
addresses or report, or they're collecting from. So we still don't know if everybody is, has an improved, and they, for some reason, are not allowed to disclose that.
Well, I
information.
mean,
It's a small enough town, I think we can figure that out.
So
Yeah,
so anyway, right now lodging on the lake and the one on Loop Road are the two that we have.
I thought there were two at lunch.
there are.
They're on, okay.
But they're-
So we have three technically, we only have two companies.
Right.
Okay, so for budget purposes, to get this thing
Yeah,
under
it's-
wraps, we've got one thing we need to answer is on police. It's the, whether or not the 10,000 increase on salaries. The other ones, the 3,000 for the fire, I think we got a clear decision on, well, it's 4,000, taking the 1,000 out of travels,
Usually
putting 4,000.
three.
I think we're clear that that's okay with all of us, that's fine. And then the other one is the increase in decrease in IT. Oh, you've already budgeted that, that's right, not bad. That's good. So it'll be the water fund, $4,800 extra for EMS. That's gonna increase. So the only one we really need to make a decision on is the police, and then we need to figure out how we're gonna balance it, whether it be with the millage rate at this time.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the police, would it be, could we in effect tie that to?
We've done this in the past, I think. You remember it didn't come through.
Right.
But,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
right,
But if we say,
If it's based upon the fact of that getting done,
of that getting done,
we can make an amendment later.
Yeah.
To the budget, correct?
Yeah.
For right now, I wouldn't make the change. That's my opinion.
that, I agree with you.
Okay, so we'll leave that off the budget right now. That makes sense. And now the question is pretty simple. You increase the millage rate or adjust the millage rate? Or what was the other option? I'm losing my brain.
The other option was to cut.
Oh,
costs
no,
in
was
other
to
areas.
anticipate the fines and forfeitures. That's a hidden increase.
Yeah, right.
There's two options, that's it. If we take the risk, which we did last year, and we totally blew it, nobody's fault, like I said. It was COVID, and it was the fact they never did get the signs up. So we had good faith. And we're gonna have good faith this time too. But are we gonna, is our good faith gonna be that we're gonna anticipate the signs being installed, and that's where the revenue will come to take care of the non-budget, the not even, are being in the red? Or are we gonna adjust the millage rate? That's, I don't know. And then we can amend it later.
That's, yeah.
Well, if
We
we,
can go to.
What do you think, Linda? I'm just curious, because you're the one that does all this. What would you do?
And
I mean, I respect you, so that's why I'm asking.
I'm concerned about banking on the sign, just because I feel like Warren's gonna tell you we can't do it.
And as much as I hate millage rate increases, I've felt all along we should have left it at 6, period.
Yeah.
And we never should have reduced it.
Hindsight, yeah, I agree with you now.
Especially when we had a history of 6
Yeah.
for so long.
do you, but that's the one, if you do, you've got to have 3 meetings, is that correct?
Yeah, anytime, even if you leave your millage rate
But
alone.
that won't happen till August. This is just the budget right now. We
Right.
can
Yeah.
amend it
Right.
if we get the word from the lot signals. That makes sense, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
we won't be
budget-
setting millage rate until
Right.
probably
I think it's been
September.
October,
Right, so for
September.
good faith, I would feel better not taking the risk, but being able to amend it later and go with the military
I agree.
increase. And then we solve the budget issue for you and you can move forward with what you got.
And I think doing it that way also lets us get word out to the people in town to say, look, this is a consideration. Your taxes might go up, your dollar out of your pocket's gonna go up,
That's correct.
come in and talk to us.
And we're doing all we can to avoid that.
Right, and then we get an opportunity to explain why.
And we've got 60 days, we may have an answer like Warren said, and then that may solve some of our issues with that.
I mean, there's the legal expense, that's the other questionable one. I mean, we upped it. Did I up it enough? Did I up it too much?
I don't even want to.
You know, I don't even know. I don't know
We
either,
don't
so
even
that,
discuss it.
that's just
I got
one of the only other real.
Yeah, let's use
long
the
stuff.
magic ball,
I mean,
So if we-
crystal ball.
So if we agree that you're gonna adjust the millage rate to make it balance, and then we'll see what happens in 60 days. If we need an amendment, we can. But I feel like we've done good faith on everything. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's the point of the state, right?
yeah, the only thing we didn't touch on is the capital projects. I don't know if we'll look at it real quick. Or just leave what we had for this year that we haven't done.
Just leave what we have right now. I mean, we have a lot of ideas on capital projects.
Yeah, but we don't know if we're gonna have the funding.
We just
so-
we gotta get our costs and see what the funding is. There's nothing really I can do about that.
Yeah, I mean, not so much water, but on did you see anything on there's the entry, the shower entry, that's still on there. The kayak storage is still on there, loading zone improvements.
The kayak
all that.
storage, that still needs to be on there because it's gotta be spent for recreation, correct?
Right,
And that's the best idea I've seen. Now,
Well-
you talk about some improvements, but we can adjust that, right? And we can change it. It doesn't have to go for kayaks if we want to improve the deck or the kayak launch. It doesn't have to go to that.
no, I mean,
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can
this is
amend, you
recreation.
can amend it.
Yeah, and I wondered about the kayak
Well,
launch.
we've got the loading
and
zone.
possibly the
improvements. I think that's
handicap
what it
launch.
is.
Oh, you do have loading zone.
Yeah, the loading zone improvements, we got
Okay.
5,000 for that, 5,000 for the kayak storage.
We just need to get off our butt and do it, basically,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
And now, remember, we've got Gary coming in this summer. We can put him on, I know I can put him on the new entry to the shower.
That'd be great.
Especially if we do the wall inside. And we can, and anybody that wants to pitch in and help out, and keep some of that cost down as well. And then the loading zone improvements, we'd have to get with Georgia Power, we'd have to get.
And if they have the big plan that's gonna happen across the way,
I've still got to have some meetings about that,
okay,
so.
gotcha.
So what is that? I'm sorry.
But it would have to, this has to be spent on,
This,
we have to
yeah,
own
this,
the property.
yeah, we wouldn't be able to use this money for that project.
Okay, yeah, no, I mean, we couldn't even use it for this property that we have by our dock right
What
here.
do you propose last meeting?
Can we do improvements there and spend our money even though it's Georgia Power property?
Well, we have the right of way property for the loading zone improvements.
So you're okay to spend it there, even though it's not our property?
Well,
As long as it's on right of way,
It's right away, it is our property.
Okay, I got you.
as long as it's down right of way. So
And where is that?
down here by the
Right
dock.
here about the dock.
And what do you propose to do there?
We need to do some grading and
It's eroded
working.
and it's a tripping hazard. We let people, public come in there and they can trip, slip, fall.
And we
Just
need to make it where we can pull 2 cars out and get completely off the road. Because when people park halfway on the road, our Hickory Nut Mountain residents have to wait.
Absolutely.
So
Which doesn't bother me, by the way. It bothers some.
it does bother some,
So
so.
it doesn't bother me.
If we make-
I drive slow.
If we make some effort to make sure people get completely off the road, I think it helps. Won't stop people from stopping in the road like they do now. We can't stop that.
I've blocked the road and fallen in the,
My goal is there too, though, is I
Then
don't want to make that access, this is just my personal thought. I don't want to make that access so friendly that even though we gotta keep it open to the general public, that it takes away from the state park. The park has a boat launch area over there, has a handicap ramp, and they're fine, they get paid. So you want people to go there to pay their $2. This is really for the city, even though we can't close it down to the general public. Does that make any sense?
it does.
So I don't want to make it super advertised, hey, come launch your boat here, but I do want to approve it. Does that make any sense? Yes. Okay.
So yeah, we need to talk about, still need to talk about kayaks.
Listen,
And then everything else is element match, and then the Main Street project, which was the sidewalk, I think. y'all were-
yeah,
We're working on that.
I've got a drawing put together based, still haven't located a gas line up through Carl's, I don't know why.
That's
Yeah,
one
it's,
of the-
it's marked.
Is it up through Carl's?
Oh,
No, they stopped right there at the post office. I
I
don't know
told him
why.
when
well, no, they went post office. I just saw some new flags today.
Oh, they might have did
Went
it
up
today.
across Bluegrass.
Ricky, my brother, my surveyor, he's gonna take his GPS and locate it for us, so we can
Okay.
try to tie in the right of way and everything.
Okay.
So we have an actual plan. That makes some sense.
Because, yeah, I noticed some flags going up to the paved area on the other side of Bluegrass. I can't remember if they went across that and on across Carl's.
Yeah, I didn't see it from across Carl's.
So, but it,
Carl's property has a pipe that's definitely a hole we need to dig up in the fair, so that's why that dig tick, that's why I called the dig tick there. Also, while it's there, I want to locate utilities, see what's on our right of way, and see how we can fit a sidewalk up through there. That's why we're like that. With some of our capital funds that we have to spend on that type of stuff.
No other capital projects other than.
We
water.
can't even finish the ones we have, so.
What falls under the water system improvements for 53,000?
So that was our anticipated ARP funds. We actually are gonna get slightly more than that, 63,858. So we've gotten half of it sitting in the bank. Yeah, we just haven't
yes.
done anything with it. It has to be water.
Yeah,
I
some
mean, it
of
doesn't
that-
have to be water, but we plan to use it. for-
Plan to use
Yeah.
it for water.
We were planning on using that and SPOS to come up with $200,000 matching if we get that grant. So that's why it's.
So $4 million.
Yeah, if we get the $4 million grant.
You did go for the 5 million, right?
It went up
Only
to
4 million? What are you doing?
4.1, well,
I think that's it.
All right.
all right. That was a good work session. We need to have,
There's another one, right?
Oh.
well,
So, yeah,
yeah, we're
what
gonna
do y'all
have
wanna
to
do from here?
yeah, we're gonna have to have another. What we can do is, now that Linda has some direction, she can go and
Finalize everything.
pull these numbers together. Try to find some money somewhere and come up with another, an amended, or not amended, but another budget to send out to you guys to look at. If she comes up with something that y'all think is fine, then we'll do we may not. I need to back up. We need answers to questions first. We sure do. Then Linda can amend this thing, massage it, and then we'll have to determine whether we have another meeting to discuss it, or if we can come up with basically.
Thank you for
what we
coming.
did. That's good.
Linda's gonna balance it.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you have a date for that, when we possibly not do that?
I don't, let's see, we got our council meeting on the 5th.
I thought we had said something.
Look, man, like,
The 26th is what I've got in my calendar.
Yeah. Is that, yeah, was that a
That was
workshop,
supposed to be our public hearing.
Public forum.
Yeah.
public hearing for?
the
for the
5th and the
budget?
26th.
Before the budget is the 26th.
So we could turn that into a workshop.
Well, we do
Unless
it on the 5th, during the one.
do,
Oh.
the 5th is our
discuss-
regular meeting.
Yeah, we can't discuss it.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
if we have
We can't
information.
do our
by then,
public hearing, then
No.
we could do another.
We do another workshop
We could finish this off. right?
if we get enough,
If
if
we
we
have
have
the
enough
answers.
answers by then. It's only
Oh,
2 weeks
yeah.
away.
Well, oh,
I'm
Joey
still doing the
Joey
26th,
wouldn't be here,
right?
so he'd be happy for us to do a workshop without.
yeah,
him.
y'all have a big
That's
one.
the public hearing. That's the latest we can do the public hearing, well, maybe not latest, but that's when we're doing the public hearing.
That's what we're planning on.
I
The
think
latest
on
we
the
can have-
5th, y'all should do an all-nighter.
The latest we can have the public
Yeah,
hearing is.
We'll zoom in
July.
I know.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, the latest we could have our public hearing would be the middle of July.
Okay, I got you. So we had planned on it.
So we planned on it for the end of May,
We're trying to get it done.
because we'd really like
On
to have it
time.
done on time this year. So
Or a little early.
we started a few days earlier this year. Trying for a few weeks earlier, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, so,
Not this year.
I mean, there won't be much to a work session other than answers.
Yeah, getting answers to, Scott needs to get answers back to us. Yeah, I'll try to get some answers. Some of that we can feed into Linda. And she can make adjustments based on when we get some of these answers in. Just whether or not we'll know from the line.
Really, the one, all I wants the millage rate versus the blue lines.
It really is.
That's it.
Yeah, I applaud the man hours you put into this water thing.
Yeah, appreciate you.
I'm so glad that it was
Glad
between you
someone
and I.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it's harder than the group is. It's not me.
How much time did you put in that?
Oh, it's an everyday thing lately.
And I'm also glad because I'm not doing nearly as much as I was because I've got someone else there. So I do watch the tank every
Talking to
day.
Josh or Matthew or Mike, I mean, it's one of them daily. Almost every day. Yeah. But, and that guys are doing now, so, but we've got to do it. We just have to. We've got to change the current stance of our water.
Something has changed and we need to address it.
Yeah.
Because something has made it worse.
We owe it to the citizens. I mean, how can we charge, no matter what we charge for water, if we don't give them quality water?
All right, well, if we don't have anything else, then I want a motion to adjourn.
Yep, I'll make it.
Scott makes that motion. Somebody say,
Joey.
Joey seconds, okay. All in favor? Yes. Now I want a motion to go over to Tom's for barbecue.